Chapter 293, Great Unexpected Wealth. Shu Long bit down hard. The black energy was burning against his body like fire. He knew what the black energy was, it was killing essence. The Crow Fiend Mo killing formation could condense killing essence to wound the enemy, but the killing essence was like a double-edged blade. To wound the enemy, it had to first wound them. Channeling, hardship guard, to his limit, the black energy was slowly being absorbed. His body uncontrollably trembled all over. Pain and struggle was the best nutrients for this Mo skill. Different than what others saw, using little Mo kill was barely achievable for the present guard camp. In the usual practice, the success rate of little Mo kill was not high. But today, no platoon had failed in activating their little Mo kill. But Shu Long felt threads of black energy burrow into his body like worms and burning every part of his skin. He didn't dare to move. He was afraid that if he made the slightest movement, he would suddenly lose control. He was not the only one. All the other camp guards were nailed to the ground like wooden posts. They were covered all over in black energy. They gritted his teeth and bore it, furiously channeling their Mo skill. Return to the city immediately. Inside the necklace, Pu Yao's voice was not shouting like he was previously, but with a rare kind of solemnity. Shu Long could not speak. He bit down harder, the black energy on his body increasingly dense. The black energy seemed to show signs of turning to flame. He couldn't even move his feet to walk. The black energy increasingly grew heavier in all of guard camp. Sua Mo also saw the wrongness. Theoretically, the black energy should have dissipated by now, but the black energy inside the large formation was becoming increasingly heavy. If this continued, guard camp would be consumed by these brutal and sharp killing essences. Black water. Quick! Pu Yao's voice suddenly sounded inside Sua Mo's head. Sua Mo first stilled, and then his expression instantly changed. He flew outside the city, and sprinkled down black water. At this time, he couldn't care about how valuable black water was. He was afraid that the amount wasn't enough, and just rained down all the black water he possessed on guard camp. Each drop of black water was heavy as lead. With cracking sounds, some landed on the ground, and smashed out a small hole, dust spraying out. But when it hit the bodies of the camp guards, it was like landing in sand, instantly entering their body and disappearing without a trace. Previously, the Moon-Eye black water beast Sua Mo and the others had killed was 3,000 caddies heavy. Sua Mo had taken as much as 1,500 caddies of black water. All of that 1,500 caddies of black water was raining down on the bodies of the guard camp. Black water was a frequently used third-grade material, but that did not mean that it was so cheap. The Crow Fiend Mo killing formation caused everyone to feel terror, but when the spectators saw Sua Mo continuously sprinkled down 1,500 caddies of black water, they almost went insane, and felt great pain. Their eyes were so jealous they were entirely red. More than 1,000 caddies of black water. Was there anyone that was so wasteful? Looking at the black energy decreasing, the expressions of pain on Shu Long and the others' faces decreased greatly. Sua Mo felt slightly reassured. He suddenly recalled that he had 4 semi-spheres of Moon-Eye. He hurriedly asked Pu Yao, "Are Moon-Eyes useful?" Pu Yao was slightly surprised. Moon-Eyes are very expensive. So it means they are effective? Asked Sua Mo. Oh, it's effective. Just as Pu Yao's words landed, Sua Mo took out the 4 semi-spheres of Moon-Eye. Moon-Eye. The spectators did not lack for those that recognized it, who then exclaimed, "Black water! Moon-Eye! He must have killed a Moon-Eye black water beast. Very strong. That thing is very expensive. What does he want to do?" Sua Mo put the Moon-Eyes into the center of his palms and then scrubbed hard. Instantly, the Moon-Eyes turned to a pile of white powder. All the exclamations suddenly stopped. They looked with abject shock at Sua Mo's hands. Suemo gently channeled Ling power into his palms. The Moon Eye power instantly turned to a ball of white smoke and covered guard camp. This master of Golden Crow City definitely is of uncommon origin. The middle-aged person's expression was admiring. I don't know which sect he is a disciple of. This person is very generous and has high aims. Darren may want get acquainted with him. The large male also had admiration. To say of nothing else, it wasn't so easy to be so generous to one's subordinates. He was confident in the judgment of the middle-aged person. Without a doubt, the master of Golden Crow City definitely was the heir to an ancient and hidden sect. Such a vicious formation, such powerful subordinates, these were things only disciples of those large sects would have. What made him so certain was the 1,500 caddies of black water, and the 4 semi-spheres of Moon Eye that Suemo had taken out. He was too familiar with these motions. Just this mannerism wasn't something a small sect could afford to give. Thinking about himself and his group of people throwing down the 1,000 jing to get a beauty to smile, it was embarrassing compared to this person today. So embarrassing. The large male made the decision that he would definitely request a meeting with the Lord of Golden Crow City when this battle finished. Xu Long and the others knew the value of black water and Moon Eye. Mist rose in their eyes. The black energy almost lost control. They had always been ordered about, beaten, and sworn at. No one had ever spent so much on them. Never before. The voice of the Darren inside the necklace sounded again. Gather your minds, return to the city immediately, move slowly. Xu Long suppressed the excitement inside. He didn't say anything, reaching out with a hand to make a motion towards the others. They slowly moved towards Golden Crow City. The city gates of Golden Crow City were wide open. Compared to the crispness and nimbleness when they jumped down from the walls of the city, they were as slow as turtles at this time and had no presence. But no one dared to underestimate them. When their eyes landed on guard camp, they would unconsciously hold a hint of terror. It was this troop that looked as slow as puppets, it was these bumpkins mocked for wearing clumsy and heavy black armor, that had just destroyed a troop of 1,000 Shuzha. When guard camp entered the city, they went directly back to their camp to process the killing essence, black water, and Moon Eyes. Suemo wasn't in the mood to face the others, and had the formation battle watchtowers keep up their guard. He ran to the residence of guard camp and saw the armor-wearing Xiu slaves standing like wooden posts shrouded in black energy. He worriedly asked Pu Yao, what happened today? Is there a problem? Right, what formation did they use? Crow Fiend Mo killing formation, a type of slightly obscure formation, Pu Yao said. It is the most appropriate to use with hardship guard. This battle formation was something it got after killing a Mo general. It? Suemo was slightly puzzled. That steel, Pu Yao said irritably. Oh. Suemo didn't understand but noted it down. It seemed the gravestone was as extraordinary as he had expected to be able to kill a Mo general. He continued to ask, what happened today? The first skill of Crow Fiend Mo killing formation is called Little Mo Kill, that's what you saw today, Pu Yao said. Even though it doesn't have much technique, the time they have spent cultivating is too short and it was too hard for them to use. Then what are they doing now? Pu Yao was slightly discontent. Originally, he had been planning to show off in front of Suemo, but hadn't expected that the other had to come and rescued him. This made him feel as uncomfortable as though he had swallowed a fly. Seeing Suemo stare at him, he could only twist his mouth and say, they have received good fortune due to this calamity. The killing essence has corroded their body. To other people, it is fatal, but for them, it is a good chance to make a breakthrough. Since you have black water, and used the Moon Eyes, if they still can't break through, they are pigs. Suemo's heart was instantly reassured. He smirked. I don't dare to say if they are pigs. I say, old Pooh, you have to be more reliable in the future. You said you wanted to manage guard camp alone, okay, I immediately consented. But look, after this long, you only practiced a dumb formation and a self-mutilation skill. Please, you are a Sky Yao, you need to take out something acceptable. A person can't be so miserly, no, a Sky Yao can't be so miserly. You even needed GE to run over for a rescue. Do you think black water and moon eyes doesn't cost Jingshi? Honored Sky Yao, it is very expensive. Finishing, he didn't look at Pu Yao's white and green face, turned, and left the sea of consciousness. Once he came out of the sea of consciousness, Suemo couldn't stop himself from roaring with laughter. When he thought of Pu Yao's green and white ugly expression, he felt his body was unspeakably comfortable. After 2,500 people had fallen outside Golden Crow City, Hong Junxian, who saw it all with his own eyes, had to tuck up his tail no matter how arrogant he was. He definitely could not accept leaving pitifully like this, but he didn't dare to mount another frontal attack. He Xiang and the others had all been killed in this battle. He had paled just from watching. Where could he get the bravery? Out of helplessness, he could only set down camp, and slowly brainstorm. The night came quickly. Golden Crow City that usually was filled with light was pitch black today. But the camp of the outer hall was lit up like it was day. They were afraid of a sneak attack from Golden Crow City. The Xiuzhe that were watching from afar were waiting for the day to arrive. It seemed like nothing would happen tonight. Time quickly flowed until midnight. Suddenly, the city gate of Golden Crow City was pushed open a sliver. Lilith Pagoda sneakily peeked out with half of its body, saw that no one was there, before walking out without any worry. Behind it, a row of copper puppets tiptoed as they streamed out. Each copper puppet had a cloth bag on its back. Lilith Pagoda slowly flew at the front, occasionally looking around. The copper puppets leapt towards the corpses below with a nimbleness and speed completely opposite its clumsy bodies. Their movements were uncoordinated as they tore down the talismans, and ling armor from the bodies of the corpses, and then put them into the cloth bag on their backs. At the beginning, their movements were extremely raw, but then they slowly became smooth. Very quickly, the cloth bag on a puppet's back was full. At this time, a gray shadow flashed past its back and flew away with the bag. The copper puppet slowly took out a second cloth bag and continued to work. On the morning of the next day, when everyone looked at Golden Crow City, they were stunned. The corpses that had been scattered on the mountain were now completely bare. This. Looking at the bare corpses on the mountain, everyone completely lost their abilities to speak. When Hong Junxian saw this scene, he didn't know what to say. So vicious. In Golden Crow City, Bao Yi completely sank into mania as he looked at the mountain of talismans. An exhilarated blush floated on his face, he forgot exhaustion as he started to sort the talismans. Lilith Pagoda was at the side, continuously throwing talismans into its mouth. Before, Bao Yi had quite an opinion about Lilith Pagoda swallowing talismans, but he was abnormally cooperative today. He even took out a large pile of talismans and put them in front of Lilith Pagoda. When Zuoyamo saw results of Bao Yi's inventory, it was like someone whacked him on the head. He felt extremely dizzy. Rich. They really struck it rich this time. So the actual phrase in Chinese roughly translates to 1,000 gold to gain a beauty's smile. The idiom comes from the story of who had a queen with the surname Bo that did not smile. He said that he would pay 1,000 gold to the person that made her smile. Of course he did a lot of other things that ended up with him deposed. Gold is changed to jing, so it becomes 1,000 jing for the smile of a beauty. Dumb and kill are different tones that are very close to each other and have the same pinyin but pronounced differently. So Zuomo mangles the killing formation into a dumb formation. Chapter 294, The Return of Lil missed the spoils from 2,500 people was astounding. Other than large amounts of normal third-grade talismans, there were also 12 fourth-grade talismans. The elders had been very rich. Of course, that cloud formation silk naturally wouldn't have been lost. The number of materials and jingsher were also very astounding. The spoils this time filled all of the date seed ship. This was an astonishing amount of wealth. So when Zuo saw the inventory list Bao Yi gave him, he was turned dumb by such enormous wealth. However, upon further thought, he felt it was normal. The outer hall shouja were wealthier than the average shouja to start with, and since it was 2,500 people at once, the amount could be imagined. In the next few days, Zuo was immersed in great happiness. Hong Junxian did not dare to act rashly. He had personally saw the guard camp destroy 1,000 people with the flick of a finger. He was especially wary of the deathly black energy that could ignore Ling shields. He sank into a situation where he could not retreat. What good ideas do you have? Junxian's eyes were bloodshot and his voice hoarse. The other shitty looked at each other. After a while, a shitty said, "There's so many shouja behind Golden Crow City. Why doesn't Shixiang recruit them? I saw that the state of those heavy armor shouja wasn't so well after the battle. Golden Crow City may not be as strong as we imagine. If we can recruit more people, our chances of victory would increase." Hong Junxian shook his head. If we win and order them to submit to us, none of them would disobey. But now that victory is undecided, they will only watch. They would only obey if Master came. Everyone sank into silence again. They had been hoping to get some achievements this time. Looking at it now, there was no hope left. It was a disappointment that they would not get any achievements, but it was much better than losing their life. The strength of Golden Crow City was beyond their imagination. Unless Master personally came, they didn't feel that any faction in Little Mountain Jia would be able to conquer this little city. Hong Junxian knew what the shitty were all thinking, but he didn't have a solution at this time. It was a great misstep to have come this time. The authority that he had managed to accumulate would probably be lost this time. But he was a decisive person. He understood the only solution now was to ask for aid from Master. Before Master came, if he could preserve the power of the present outer hall, even if he did not earn any great accomplishments, he would be noted for his work. After thinking it through, he instantly made his response. Let's stay on the defensive. I'll trouble one shitty to go make a trip and send a letter to Master for me. Several shitty instantly jumped out. They all wanted to leave this nightmarish place faster. Seventh shitty happily put away the jade scroll that Hong Junxian handed over, and made his farewells. He quickly flew into the air and left on his sword. The other shitty were all discontent, but they didn't have any way around it. Seventh shitty flew the fastest among them all. Just as everyone was grumbling, a sword light flew at astounding speed towards the camp. Why has seventh shitty come back? One of the people remarked in puzzlement. They saw seventh shitty land in the camp with a terrified expression. The moment he stepped on the ground, he stumbled, his face full of panic. Second Shixiang. Second Shixiang. Not good. People are coming over. Boom, the camp instantly became a mess. All of the Clear Sky sect disciples had expressions of anger. Had Clear Sky sect really become a softie for anyone to squeeze? Any random person could run and shit over their heads. Hong Junxian, who had lost at Golden Crow City, instantly became angry. They really dare to rebel against the heavens. After this Golden Crow City, they all think that they are Golden Crow City. The Clear Sky sect disciples hurriedly agreed. With a rumble, everyone rose into the sky. After resting from battle for a few days, the shouja in the surroundings had become slightly bored. Seeing the outer hall fly into the sky once again, they instantly became alert. Were they going to continue to attack Golden Crow City? Many people secretly shook their heads. Many of them had been thinking, out of boredom, these days on how to attack Golden Crow City, but they found that this little Golden Crow City wasn't something they could swallow. Only 2 of Golden Crow City's cards had been revealed, and they destroyed 2,500 people from the outer hall. Who knew how many more tricks did they have up their sleeves? To say of nothing else, just the city walls that exuded a faint solar aura was already extraordinary. These people had all went inside Golden Crow City to buy black processing meditation mats. The dense and dizzying formations that could be seen everywhere in Golden Crow City made many Shioja that thought they were skilled in formations feel embarrassed. If there wasn't a Jindan expert, such a strong city could only be taken using lives. However, the direction the outer hall was facing seemed to be opposite to Golden Crow City. Everyone watched in astonishment. What was the outer hall doing? They saw a 700 or so troop appear in their view and understood. The news that the cadet halls of the outer hall had been attacked had long spread throughout Little Mountain Jie. Many people speculated this unusually mysterious and strong troop was very likely to be a force from Golden Crow City. The 6 divisions of Vermilion Bird Camp silently floated in the air as they faced the outer hall. Such an elite force. A bright light suddenly exploded in the eyes of the middle-aged person who couldn't help but exclaim. How so? Their numbers seem too few, said the large male as he looked with shock at the middle-aged person. It was extremely rare to hear this person praise others usually. He hadn't expected that Golden Crow City, and now this troop, would receive such high praise in the last few days. The only weakness is that there is not enough people. The middle-aged person said, Darren, look closely at this troop. The shape of this troop is not as strictly organized as the armor-wearing Shioja from 2 days ago, but in reality, it only appears loose on the outside, but is tight on the inside. This is a quality that would only appear on troops that are experienced at battle. Facing so many enemies, they are not the least bit panicked or rushed. This means that they are confident. If this kind of troop is in our sect, what could it rank? The large male asked in curiosity. It should enter the top 10, the middle-aged person said gravely. The large male suddenly changed expression. He finally started to look seriously at this troop that was only 700 to 800 people. The top 10 troops in his sect were all famous in their jia. His dream was to possess a troop that could enter the top 10, but up until now, he was very far from his goal. People who had keen eyes were not few. The biggest feeling that Vermilion Bird Camp gave everyone was a pressure that blew straight at them. They just stood there, yet an invisible pressure unconsciously spread out. Gongsun Cha glanced at the naked corpses that covered the mountain, a rock inside his heart landing. Mirth floated at the corner of his mouth. Only Shixiang could create such a spectacular scene. To not leave even one pair of pants behind, that was the classic style of Shixiang. Narrowing his eyes to look at the other side, Gongsun Cha smiled again. With his present eyes, he could see with a glance that the outer hall had been greatly impacted, their morale at a low. It seemed that Shixiang had been a bit heavy-handed. When the other people saw the bare corpses under their feet, all of their expressions were extremely strange. Zhuemo received a report that Gongsun Shidi and the others had come back. He hurriedly climbed onto the lucky cloud, and took the female Shio as he slowly floated into the sky above Golden Crow City. Seeing that the expressions of Vermilion Bird Camp were slightly tired, but the morale was high, and there were no fatalities, a rock landed in his chest. He decided to exchange greetings with Shidi, but when the words reached his mouth, they instantly changed flavor. Shidi! Don't let go of any of them! Zhuemo shouted at the top of his lungs. His voice echoed in the mountain valleys. The spectators realized at this time that this troop of 700 people was, as expected, the elite of Golden Crow City. The middle-aged person and the large male's hypothesis that Zhuemo came from a hidden sect was reinforced by this call of Shidi. A thought floated on everyone's minds. It seemed that the master of Golden Crow City was full of confidence towards this elite force. He actually didn't want any of the enemy to escape. The grievance between Golden Crow City and Clear Sky Sect seemed to grow. Golden Crow City wanted to massacre the outer hall. As expected, this wasn't an ordinary person. Just this mannerism was extraordinary. Zhuemo then gravely added a sentence, they are all fat sheep. You can't let any of them go. Everyone collectively turned to stone. The praise on the face of the middle-aged person suddenly froze. Hong Junxian felt he would die from embarrassment. When were Clear Sky sect disciples that led 5,000 people called fat sheep by others, and also not let any of them go? Humiliation. This was true humiliation. The faces of the Clear Sky sect disciples flushed red. They stared hatefully at the procession of Gongsun Cha. They didn't dare to attack Golden Crow City. However, a troop that wasn't even 800 strong dared to be so arrogant in front of them, and said that they would all be defeated. Even if they went back to the sect now, they could never raise their heads in front of the other disciples. You don't need me to say anything. Hong Junxian said darkly, when has us Clear Sky sect disciples been humiliated so? Don't worry, Shi Xiang. A Shidi's face was filled with killing intent. Leave none of them standing. We need to let them taste what it is like to leave none of them standing. Yes. At that time, we will also strip their corpses, another Shidi viciously said. Hong Junxian said gravely, I won't say too much. If anyone dares to retreat and fear battle today, I will personally execute them. I believe that even if Master was here, he wouldn't blame me. Yes, everyone's hearts shook as they responded together. Rong Wei along with the 200 compound guards flew as fast as they could. That troop had been too fast. They had used all their power, and just managed to not lose track of the troop. The other clearly had an emergency and ignored their group, who followed behind. After flying for several days and nights, she was exhausted. However, she found it was unimaginably queer that the troop did not show any signs of exhaustion. How was it possible? Were they metal people? When she saw the mysterious and strong troop up ahead, she released a breath. She hadn't lost them. After following for so many days, she was finally slightly familiar with this troop. This was a true elite force. Even if they were in a crowd, she could easily find them. However, she immediately stilled. Because facing against this troop was a vast troop of approximately 5,000 people. Were they going to challenge an enemy who had numbers about 6 times their own? How was this possible? Were they crazy? After flying continuously for so many days, how could they still have the energy? Gongsun Cha did not notice this gaze that was filled with disbelief behind him. He gave a shy and bashful smile. The people around him shook simultaneously. These few days, Lil Miss face had remained cold. Now he was showing his trademark smile, they felt their hair stand up on end. Do you all understand what boss means? Understood, everyone instinctively replied. Then let's begin. In the depths of Gongsun Cha's shy and smiling pupils, a cold blade-like light suddenly ignited. Chapter 295, Battle General. Vermilion Bird Camp did not immediately act. They were like patient huntsmen waiting for their prey to reveal a fatal weakness. Continuous combat had caused them to mature quickly. Not just Gongsun Cha, it was also true of everyone else. In the present, they didn't need Gongsun Cha to send down orders. Every person knew what they should do. Gongsun Cha's eyes were sparkling, his face holding the bashful smile that was unique to him. He clearly had been induced to elation by Shixiang's suggestion. Seeing the smile on Lil Miss' face, everyone understood that Lil Miss was getting serious. They hurriedly became 120% alert and gathered their mind. If they couldn't complete it well, then what was waiting for them would be inhumane. They collectively shook. Everyone wiped their eyes clean, and revealed a light that made others feel trepidation. The first to act was the outer hall. The 5,000-strong army suddenly divided into 5 troops. 2 of the troops charged straight forward, and another 2 circled around to the flanks. They want to surround us. Ma Fan was stunned. Ha! Xia Shan smiled, filled with killing intent. Everyone could see that the outer hall wanted to swallow this elite force of Golden Crow City in one go. This troop from Golden Crow City is overconfident. The large male shook his head. At least this time, the outer hall didn't do anything stupid. They finally understand that their greatest advantage is their numbers. If they can bog down this troop, they can slowly grind them dead. The middle-aged person was silent. He didn't speak, but he agreed with the large male inside. Naturally, they were not the only ones who could see this. Rong Wei also saw this. She looked with puzzlement at this troop that was about to be surrounded. After following for so many days, she had her own opinion about this mysterious troop. This was a true elite troop. They were skilled in tactics, had outstanding individual manpower, was well organized, persistent, and had endurance in combat. How could such a troop make such a common and low-level mistake? They were elite, but the difference in numbers was truly too great. In the present situation, their best tactic was to use their own actions to continuously manipulate the enemy, and find chances to continuously gnaw on them. But Vermilion Bird Camp seemed to be unaffected about being surrounded. She felt pity inside. Such an elite troop would die here. She had originally wanted to have a partnership with the other. Looking at it now, she had to find another way. Just as the others were feeling pity, Vermilion Bird Camp finally moved. Without any finesse, they charged directly at the two troops that were flying at them. Everyone was filled with bewilderment. The two troops that were directly in front of them added together was nearly 2,000 people. It was the direction that had the greatest number of people, and should have been the least likely choice to make a breakthrough. But Vermilion Bird Camp chose to directly break through. Acceleration. Acceleration without any hesitation. In the sky, tearing howls rose. Ma Fan and Xia Shan lead the first charge. They instantly attracted everyone's gaze. Ma Fan's illusory movement method was at its highest. The howling in his ears gradually faded as they were left behind him due to his fast speed. In the sky, a string of afterimages blossomed, and then were dissipated by the members that followed tightly behind him. He didn't need to look to know that Xia Shan was definitely near him. They had partnered up multiple times and were very in sync with each other. His speed was so fast he could not even see the faces of the enemy clearly. He bent his head down, and he focused while the flying sword appeared in his hand. The enemy neared at a shocking speed. The battle intent that was simmering inside his body reached a peak in an instant, the Ling power already prepared erupting out through the flying sword. Shadowless Sword of Destruction. The intimidating sword essence gathered at the tip of each sword energy. With long afterimages trailing behind, the sword energies flickered bright and dim. The three Xiuzha targeted by the sword essence changed expression, and fled to the two sides in panic. Xia Shan had the highest cultivation, but in terms of talent in the sword and comprehension of sword essence, Ma Fan was the number one in Vermilion Bird Camp. Each sword essence would create 3 to 5 afterimages that made it hard to determine which was real and which was not. The sky full of sword energies made a person feel unable to dodge. The dot of sword essence at the tip of each sword energy was extremely pure and unable to be destroyed. When every outer hall Xiuzha faced it, it felt as though the sword energy was pointed directly at their brow. Their hearts were stunned. The outer hall Xiuzha retreated to the two sides like a retreating tide everywhere Ma Fan passed. The Ling power of Xia Shan's body was channeled to the extreme. The pressure exuded by a terrifying cultivation of over 180 Jing was enough to drive a person insane. The outer hall Xiuzha suddenly thought of that terrifying Ningmai third stratum Xiuzha that had almost destroyed Nanxing village on his own. The spectators rumbled and flew into the sky to look with shock at the battlefield. Each person could clearly feel the waves released by Xia Shan. A Ningmai third stratum Xiuzha with a cultivation surpassing 180 Jing was the peak existence in Ningmai. However, the middle-aged person next to the large male favored Ma Fan more. It is rare for someone so young to possess such a pure sword essence. In the future, he would easily become an expert. If there is a chance, it is good to recruit him. The large male disagreed inside. In the sect, there were many shidi who possessed such power. He lacked interest in Ma Fan. The middle-aged person knew that the large male was thinking, and sighed inside. In his view, the fact that Ma Fan could cultivate such a pure sword essence in such an environment was enough to prove his outstanding talent. The disciples from the sect were good in their strength, but how much Lingdan and wondrous medicines had been used to build that up? However, he did not persuade further. Another who had the same view as the middle-aged person was Roan Wei. However, she knew the power of Vermilion Bird Camp and did not have any intentions of recruiting the other. However, the shock she had increased. This troop was filled with all sorts of talents, and was even more powerful than she had imagined. She suddenly glanced at the male that was floating on the lucky cloud above Golden Crow City. Just now, she had heard him shout, "Shitty." Was he the one in charge? When her gaze landed on the mask-wearing female show next to the male, she had a strong feeling that the power of this female show wasn't simple, though she could not see it. This group of people were not simple. The expressions of the Clear Sky sect disciples were all ugly. The strong combat abilities shown by Ma Fan and Xia Shan caused the outer hall Xiuzha to retreat. No one dared to block them for an instant. Quickly, for Clear Sky sect disciples charged at the two people at the same time. Xia Shan snickered, the flying sword in his hand rising as he suddenly accelerated. His entire figure turned into a smear of multicolored light as he charged towards the four. In sync, Ma Fan's figure swerved and left the four people behind but still charging forward. Behind him, Nian Lu instantly took his place. Beside Nian Lu, Lei Peng had a snarling smile as he charged at the four Clear Sky sect disciples that Xia Shan was covering. Beside Lei Peng, the other expects all moved forward, brimming with murderous intent. They didn't give anyone the chance to fight on their own. Taking advantage of Xia Shan trapping the disciples, the saber and sword energies of Lei Peng and the others silently flashed by. A line of blood simultaneously appeared on the throats of the four people. Their eyes were wide, terror frozen on their faces as if they wanted to say something. No one paid attention to them. None of the Xiuzha from the Sky Peak platoon looked at the four Clear Sky sect disciples and raced past them. Having gotten rid of what was behind him, Ma Fan was alone as the head of the arrow. His wrist shook and the sword energies that had been prepared long ago, pew pew pew, were like a sword energy rain. Everyone suddenly felt their vision light up. The sword energies carried a sky-covering presence as the keen sword essence covered everything. Everyone felt their scalp prickle, and their expressions changed. Their minds stolen away, they instinctively dodged. Sky Peak platoon was like a burning hot blade slicing through butter. Without any resistance, it easily divided the troops in two. What was following tightly after was the 6 divisions of Vermilion Bird Camp. Different from the unparalleled keenness of Sky Peak platoon, what the 6 divisions displayed was power. If Sky Peak platoon was a sharp knife, then the 6 divisions were 6 heavy hammers, 30,000 caddies heavy, and unable to be stopped. In front of the 6 divisions, the 2,000 people were like papier-mâché, and easily penetrated. When they passed, they left behind a straight line of bloody rain. In the blink of an eye, the situation of the battlefield instantly reversed. Everyone gaped. Having broken through and messed up the ranks of the 2,000 people at the front, the advantages of the two sides instantly reversed. At this time, Vermilion Bird Camp held the advantage. This. Countless people gaped. They looked dazedly as Vermilion Bird Camp broke through the ranks of 2,000 people in an instant. That was 2,000 people. That number was 3 times that of Vermilion Bird Camp. The Xiuzha that lost organization were like headless mosquitoes moving in random directions. It was useless no matter how Hong Jun Xian shouted and raged. The faces of the large male, the middle-aged person, and Roan Wei changed at the same time. Their eyes were keener and more acute. The collision between the two sides had just been a short instant, but this short instant had given them too much of a shock, and too much content that they needed to digest. More than 10 shouja that comprehend sword essence. If it was just based on numbers, the large male shouldn't be so shocked. There were many disciples inside the sect that comprehend sword essence. But those were disciples. When these disciples entered the battalions, they were the backbone. To use experts that comprehended sword essence to specially construct a little troop for charging. He had never heard of such a thing, much less seen it. It was too luxurious. The large male felt he was almost going insane. He started to doubt. Was his sect really a large sect? Why did he feel he was poor? Roan Wei looked at the chaotic battlefield in the air. She had made a high estimate previously about the combat abilities of this troop of 700 or so people, but after seeing them fight with her own eyes today, she found that she had greatly underestimated them. Battle General. This was definitely a troop that possessed a battle general, and a battle general that was not of a low rank. The brutal and sharp charge was like a blade that accurately dismembered the opponent. The cooperation and support between each troop, including their advancing paths and the timing of attack, was flawless. Roan Wei felt cold sweat stream down. The Marquis had done his best to teach her. She had also learned how to be a battle general. Otherwise, the Marquis would not have sent her on this mission. As early as when she was 15, she had received the Green Bronze Battle General Medal from the licensing office. Her talent had been astounding. Comparing herself to that young person, she secretly rejoiced that she hadn't hung that Bronze Battle General Medal on her waist. She looked from a distance at the young person that was tightly guarded in the middle, and felt it was hard to comprehend. From childhood, what she had heard the most of were praises of how talented she was. Today, she had personally seen a young person who wasn't much older than her, but was much more skilled than she was. Gong Sun Cha did not detect that someone was looking at him. His eyes were like stars in the night spreading a glowing light. Constantly paying attention to the changes on the battlefield, he suddenly spoke. Prepare to begin. Chapter 296, Silver. After such a charge, over 500 of the 2,000 people had been killed. Scum. Lei Peng's voice was full of scorn as he said and continued, so many people but they can't even stop one wave. Nian Lu said unconcernedly, isn't this better? Otherwise, we would need to have spent more effort. Careful that we can't finish boss mission. We're really going to kill all of them. Lei Peng grumbled. You think? Don't think you can get out of it. Nian Lu brushed the bangs in front of his forehead as he said, Boss said it in front of this many people. If we can't finish, we cause boss to lose face, that means we cause Lil Miss to lose face. If we lose Lil Miss face, you don't need me to say the rest. I know that. Lei Peng adopted the mannerism of one looking for defeat. I just feel that there is no joy in defeating this kind of enemy. Enemy? Oh, you are wrong, they are just fat sheep. The pleasure in killing fat sheep is to strip them, not defeat them. The two didn't have the time to chat. Lil Miss orders quickly passed over. The two rapidly gathered their minds and turned around. Vermilion Bird camp that had just thrust their way to the back lines of the enemy had suddenly turned and charged back. The chaotic mess of over 1,000 shouja that had just been scattered by the charge instantly started to wail. Lacking effective organization, they ran in all directions in panic. But there was no place to escape. They immediately met the Vermilion Bird camp shouja that had already sneaked their way to the flanks. After a few dozen were killed in a row, the rest of people were scared half to death and turned to run. The platoons that swam at the ranks did not pursue them. They were only responsible for hurting the shouja that were preparing to flee back into the big group. The Vermilion Bird camp that had turned back to kill seemed to be herding sheep as they continuously herded the 1,000 people that had been robbed of their courage. Hong Junxian's limbs felt cold, his expression hopeless as he stood dazedly in the sky. He continuously saw the outer hall Xiuzhe move past him, their faces filled with terror and hopelessness. All of his setup had been disrupted. The outer hall Xiuzhe that came flooding into the remaining 3 troops. Terror quickly spread. The troops that had already had low morale instantly collapsed, they had been routed. On top of the lucky cloud, Zuomo looked at the chaotic battlefield. He couldn't help shaking his head, and said, "This kind of troop is only strong on the surface." He then smiled, and snickered, "It's all ours." The female Xiu stood by him like a wooden mannequin. Zuomo actually was just talking to himself. He didn't hope that the female Xiu would give a response. If the female Xiu suddenly talked, he would definitely be scared. The Vermilion Bird camp's simultaneous shouts of "surrender to not die" could be heard from far away. The hopeless outer hall Xiuzhe all surrendered so easily that even Zuomo was shocked. The direction of the entire battle was unexpected to everyone. Even Zuomo and Gongsun Cha almost couldn't believe that more than 4,000 people could give up resisting so easily, and collectively surrender. The other people were stunned. The middle-aged person was the first to respond. He shook his head and sighed. What the outer hall does is not righteous in the end. A troop constructed in this manner had nothing to speak in terms of discipline. There's no problem usually, but if they encounter danger, they cannot withstand a single blow. The large male objected, "If it is the elite from our sect, it is unknown who will win." The middle-aged person smiled while he spoke. "The elite from the sect can compare to this troop, but what about the battle general?" The large male stilled. 1,000 soldiers were easy to obtain, but one general was hard to request. It was hard to raise a battle general. There were rarely those that could come out of the wild. Only large sects would be able to educate some. Of all the licensing offices, the Battle General Licensing Office was always the least populous, but after the incident at Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia, the Battle General classes were as common as rain. Of course, those were just to con people of Jingshi. But from the side, it was possible to see the desire of all sects regarding battle generals. Presently, battle general had become the most popular and employable profession. The sect had 3 or 5 battle generals, but they only had bronze medals. The battle general of this troop definitely was not just a bronze-ranked general. The level above bronze medal was the silver medal. Each silver battle general was a rarely found talent. The price to recruit a silver battle general was even higher than a Jindan sword show. Was he a silver battle general? The large male stared at Gongsun Cha's bashful and delicate face. He almost couldn't believe it. Rong Wei was just as shocked as he was. However, Rong Wei wasn't just postulating, she was sure of it. She herself was a bronze battle general, and had a more accurate judgment of Gongsun Cha's skill. This young person with a shy and bashful smile like that of the neighbor's little boy definitely was a silver-ranked battle general. Clear Sky sect really kicked a metal board this time. Rong Wei stared at the battlefield without a word. Behind her were the shocked faces of the compound guards. Her gaze suddenly landed on the black young person sitting on the lucky cloud. That was the master of Golden Crow City. She imperceptibly furrowed her brows. The master of Golden Crow City seemed to be admiring the bare feet of the female. She hadn't expected him to be a lusty person. She felt pity inside. The future of such a young silver battle general was unlimited, but he was under the command of such a lusty person. She felt great regret. Zuomo stared at the perfect bare feet of the female Xiu, saying to himself, "Tell me, will Clear Sky Forefather come this time?" After the previous experience with the 9-turn sky soil disk, Zuomo's relationship with the female Xiu had unconsciously become closer. Even he didn't seem to realize it. The bare feet of the female Xiu would unconsciously attract his attention. At the beginning, he had been slightly embarrassed, but afterwards, he found that the female Xiu did not care at all, so he did it openly. This was in pursuit of beautiful things. Sua Mo's reason was righteous. He should probably come soon. Sua Mo didn't move aside his eyes as he spoke to himself. Clear sky old forefather, the female Shio was silent. Gathering the spoils was a very familiar practice for Vermilion Bird Camp. Bao Yi also hurried out of Golden Crow City to help. It didn't even take 2 hours for all of the captives to be completely stripped clean. The spectating Shioja all watched with burning eyes. They wanted to go and get some benefits as well. However, after just seeing the strong combat capabilities of Vermilion Bird Camp, no one dared to act. When Hong Jun Xian and the other Clear Sky sect disciples were taken to Sua Mo, each of them only had their pants left. If you dare to even harm one of our hairs, the old forefather won't have mercy on you, a Clear Sky sect disciple said severely. Crazy, Sua Mo rolled his eyes. Look at the situation, saying these words, did he not want to live? Hong Jun Xian suddenly shouted at this disciple, shut up. He dismissed the disciple and turned to Sua Mo to say, we are all core disciples of Clear Sky sect. If Sir can give us a way to survive, we are willing to pay an appropriate price. Sua Mo's eyes lit up. Nothing was more attractive to him than Jingshi, but his mouth went, oh, but you do not have anything right now. Please give me a paper crane. This one believes the price will definitely satisfy Sir. Hong Jun Xian recovered his previous calm. Sua Mo thought, and then shook his head. Why? Hong Jun Xian instantly started to panic. If the other did not agree, then his little life was in danger. He thought the other was unsatisfied. 200 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi. This price, the shitty and the surroundings all inhaled sharply as they looked in disbelief at Second Shixiang. None of them had expected Second Shixiang to be so wealthy. Where had Second Shixong gotten this much Jingshi from? Sua Mo still shook his head. And half of the profits from the outer hall. Hong Jun Xian said painfully, Sir should also know how much the outer hall can earn in a year. If Sir allows us to survive, the outer hall is still under our control. Second Shixiang, you're crazy, a Clear Sky sect disciple couldn't resist saying. Shut up. Hong Jun Xian's face was black, tendons bulging. Do you want to die here? The other people instantly stopped talking. Hong Jun Xian was like a gambling addict that had lost everything. He looked at Sua Mo, how about it? Sua Mo still shook his head. What do you want? Hong Jun Xian was almost going insane. To kill Clear Sky old forefather, Sua Mo said calmly. All the Clear Sky sect disciples first stilled and then laughed as though they had heard an impossible joke. Hong Jun Xian almost couldn't breathe from laughing so hard. After a while, he stopped, and said with a mocking smile, don't joke. You want to kill old forefather? Just you guys? I feel that you should consider my previous suggestion. Sua Mo said with interest, oh, what? Our power isn't enough. It's not just that it isn't enough. Hong Jun Xian said with a cold smile, old forefather has Jindan cultivation, his power limitless. You may have some power, but in front of old forefather, you basically have no room to move. How about it? Consider my suggestions, people have to be realistic. A hint of pride unconsciously came onto Hong Jun Xian's face. Sua Mo did not have any interest in wasting words with them. He turned and left. Everyone's perspective was different. Hong Jun Xian and the others could not understand many of his thoughts. He waved his hand without turning his head. Don't keep these people, make sure they won't come back to haunt us in the future. Hong Jun Xian and the others' faces instantly turned as pale as paper. After such an encounter, Golden Crow City's name had truly spread through Little Mountain Jia. The rise of this group of people and this city was completely without warning. No one knew their origins. But even the dumbest person knew that the final battle between Golden Crow City and Clear Sky Sect was coming. No matter if it was the black processing meditation mat or this big battle made it so the two could only fight to the death. After this great battle, the gates of Golden Crow City remained tightly shut and under heavy guard. No one knew what was happening inside the walls. The sounds of explosions occasionally came from inside the city. Some Shouja that were daring desired to fly up into the sky to look, but they were almost killed by the hard lightning released by the formation battle watchtowers. The Golden Crow City that was entirely preparing for battle made the other Shouja feel the tenseness of the situation even more. There was no one within 100 li of Golden Crow City. Even though they wanted to see with their own eyes like they did previously the great battle that was coming, but they didn't dare this time. Coming from Clear Sky Sect this time would only be one person, Clear Sky Old Forefather. The only Jindan remaining in Little Mountain Jie. The following days were cloudy and unspeakably foreboding. A storm was approaching. Chapter 297, Hardship Guard Armor. Good. 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 Clear Sky Old Forefather said the word good repeatedly, unrestrained killing intent spilling out around him. In the sky above Clear Sky Sect, the clouds and winds suddenly changed. The black clouds were dark like lead. All over the sect, all the disciples shook in fear. I had never thought that the line of succession of Clear Sky would end in my hands. Clear Sky Old Forefather looked at his palms that were smooth like those of an infant, his voice as calm as water, but the killing intent in the surroundings was becoming increasingly heavy. He raised his head, his eyes cold. I was just in seclusion for a few months, yet so much has changed. The heavens. Even if it is the will of the heavens, they cannot stop this old forefather. He stood and his eyes scanned the disciples that were standing with their heads bowed below him. If I have still not come back in 10 days, ye shall all run for your lives. When he finished, he did not wait for anyone to react before disappearing from the hall. The atmosphere inside Golden Crow City was nervous. In the sky above guard camp, a black energy covered the sky and did not dissipate for days. The Shouja from Vermilion Bird Camp guarded the gate. Their eyes all held hints of shock. The sharp killing essence was so thick that even they did not feel comfortable. They could not understand how those weak Shouja slaves could become so terrifying after just a few months. Zhuemo nervously looked at the field and the rows of camp guards lined up in rows. After returning back to Golden Crow City that day, Shu Long and the others had maintained this position motionlessly for 10 days. The thick killing essence on their bodies made them look like the gods of slaughter that came from hell. The black energy around each person was restlessly moving. Shu Long's black energy was so thick that it was not possible to see his figure or features, they were completely covered by the black energy. Are they all right? Zhuemo was very worried. If they can make it through, then they'll be fine. If they can't, then all that is left for them is death. Pu Yao's voice was unconcerned, but Zhuemo could still heard the thread of nervousness contained inside. All of this killing essence needs to be completely absorbed into the body. No one knows everything about the profound mysteries of essence. Mo emphasize slaughter, and their killing essence is the strongest. Their killing essence can become tangible, which is quite a coincidence. However, for them, this opportunity to make a breakthrough is slightly early. I don't know if they can make it through. At this time, Shu Long's body suddenly started to tremble, the black energy that shrouded his body fiercely moving restlessly. It has started. Pu Yao exclaimed. Zhuomo's heart rose. The black energy was like slender worms that continuously burrowed into Shu Long's body. Shu Long's shaking increased in magnitude. Killing essence corroding the body is the most difficult barrier. Pu Yao stared fixedly at Shu Long and said rapidly, their bodies are naturally weak. If they want to keep cultivating, they must get through this gate. If that guy was still alive, this would actually be the simplest matter. Zhuemo didn't dare to move away his eyes. People were not plants, it was impossible to be emotionless upon familiarity. No matter what thoughts these Xiu slaves had, he could clearly feel the trust they had in him. Every single one of them were willing to put their lives on the line for him. The battle outside Golden Crow City had proven this. It would be false to say he was not moved. No matter what, he didn't want anything to happen to Xu Long and the others. These last few days, any materials and talismans that were necessary, no matter how expensive, as long as he had it, he unhesitatingly gave it to them. He didn't dare to have great hopes for their breakthrough. He hadn't cultivated for a long time, but he still understood the importance of a solid foundation in cultivation. Xu Long and the others had very shallow foundations. The possibility of a breakthrough was not high. He only hoped that nothing bad would happen to them. No matter how great of a favor he did for Xu Long and the others, they had fought using their lives for him once. Suemo felt that they had repaid him. Even more, he had never felt that he had done any great favors for Xu Long and the others. Xu Long's body shook like dice. The black energy streamed through his nostrils and his skin. The black energy around his body became faint, and his features started to gradually become clear. Suemo couldn't help but make a sound of surprise. Xu Long's features had changed greatly. The weariness on his face had disappeared, the wrinkles had disappeared. He appeared much younger. The skin was black and shiny like they had been polished with oil. Suemo was filled with wonderment. When Xu Long was young, he had been very handsome. A high nose, a knife-sharp brow, a structured face, deep-set eyes, and tightly pressed lips. The flavor of weariness had disappeared to be replaced by a feeling of deep maturity. At his forehead, there was a black crystal. Suemo noticed that some time ago, Xu Long's outside was covered by a suit of shiny black armor. The black armor was connected with his body, tightly pressed against his body, and almost enclosing his whole body. Pia, the black heavy armor was brutally pierced through sheer pressure. Compared to the golden armor guards, Xu Long's black suit of armor was tighter, and more exquisite. It gave the feeling of stability yet was filled with strength. Guard armor. Pu Yao's voice was filled with surprised joy. What is guard armor? When hardship guard is cultivated to a certain level, they will create guard armor. This suit of armor has many abilities. When their cultivation deepens, they will be much stronger. Pu Yao said excitedly, when they break through to the next level, they could gather killing essence to form weapons. By that time, Zuomo's heart was filled with joy. He felt happy for Xu Long. Xu Long's breakthrough seemed like a signal. The other camp guards successively created their guard armor. This process continued for 10 whole hours. In these 10 hours, Suemo didn't dare to leave for an instant. When the last camp guard finished his breakthrough, Xu Long's tightly closed eyes opened. The gaze was as bright as a star and as deep as a star was distant. He lowered his body in a bow, a greeting that Suemo had never seen before. In the name of the hardship guard, to follow Darren, never leaving or abandoning. Xu Long's voice was completely different than before, deep and resonant, pleasing to the ear. In the name of the hardship guard, we follow Darren, never leaving or abandoning. 1,000 hardship guards bowed at the same time. Suemo was stunned. Rong Wei hadn't retreated far away like the other Shouja. She was looking from a distance on a peak. On a peak nearby there was a large male and a middle-aged person. Other than that, there were some other scattered Shouja, the great majority of which were Ningmai third stratum Shouja. It was a rare chance to personally see Jin Dan fight. This wasn't guidance or sparring, but a battle to the death. Up until now, no one had seen the mysterious master of Golden Crow City fight. The only offensive move would probably be activating the Sky Ring Moon Chime formation. However, other than seeing that his skill in formations was extremely deep, it was not possible to see anything about his power. It would be seen in this battle. Rong Wei had other thoughts. Truthfully, she didn't favor the master of Golden Crow City. Clear Sky Old Forefather was a person that even the Marquis was slightly wary of. His power was not so simple. Only Xiuzha that knew Jindan would know how strong a Jindan was. To say of nothing else, but the movement speed would leave Ningmai in the dust was enough for a Jindan to be undefeatable. The difference in casting spells was a difference in the nature of power. Fighting using numbers was not something that could be used against Jindan. This meant that Golden Crow City was fated to only defend. It also meant that Clear Sky Old Forefather would always have the initiative. It was a terrifying matter for a Jindan that had the initiative and did not lack attacking moves. Roan Wei definitely would not enter into this battle. She didn't have any qualifications. However, if Golden Crow City was defeated, based on the Marquis's face, she may be able to save that Moon Silver Battle General. It would be too much of a pity if such a young Moon Silver Battle General died here. And if she took the chance to recruit him. That was the idea she had. She reflexively looked at the large male and the middle-aged person nearby. She detected the origins of these two would not be small. Inside, she hoped that these people did not have the same idea that she did. Otherwise, another battle of slaughter could not be avoided. Even more importantly, if the old forefather discovered that young person was a silver battle general, they didn't have to think of the matter anymore. Old forefather would either recruit him or kill him. There was no reason to let such a talent work under someone else. This plan would only succeed if Clear Sky Old Forefather was ignorant. Suddenly, a wave rippled across the sky in the distance. A vast presence that could not be stopped covered all of Sky Star Mountain Range. Everyone's expression changed. They felt their body freeze, and were shocked. He had come. The golden light of Golden Crow City suddenly brightened, countless golden energies leaping up and swimming like fish. They moved to cover the sky above Golden Crow City. Each formation battle watchtower lit up with silver lights. In a blink of an eye, all 36 formation battle watchtowers were alight. A golden hoop rose into the sky spreading a burning golden light. Countless golden threads dangled off, and a faint Buddhist chanting could be heard. Clear Sky Old Forefather seemed to appear out of nowhere in the sky above Golden Crow City. Hair loose, he looked to be in his 40s, but his skin was like that of an infant. A snowy white robe was carelessly tied on his body. He faintly glanced at the people hiding at a distance to watch the fight. Everyone felt their hearts uncontrollably jump, and were even more shocked. The authority of a Jindan was fierce. Little Miss Roan, is the Marquis well? The Clear Sky Old Forefather faintly opened as though he was speaking of daily activities. Roan Wei could only come out. With the good fortune of Old Forefather, Marquis is well. Oh, then why is Marquis trying to fight for this little Jie with me? Clear Sky Old Forefather's voice was still faint. Roan Wei felt her breathing stop and almost fell. Her scalp pricking, she could only say, Old Forefather is joking. With Old Forefather here, Marquis won't disturb you. Marquis only heard that stars in daytime has appeared in Little Mountain Jie, and sent this servant to investigate. Before coming Marquis had especially ordered this servant to first inform Old Forefather. Oh, so that's how it is, Old Forefather nodded. After this matter, I will go visit the Marquis. If you wish to see this battle, go back 50 more li. The tone that Clear Sky Old Forefather spoke to her was very warm, but for some unknown reason, Roan Wei's heart froze. She didn't dare to hesitate, and hurriedly retreated 50 li back. Everyone else, retreat 100 li, Clear Sky Old Forefather said lightly, in 10 breaths. Otherwise, don't blame this Old Forefather for being impolite. The atmosphere in the air was instantly as heavy as mountains. The other people were even more shocked and retreated in panic. The large male and the middle-aged person's expressions couldn't help but change. They exchanged a look, and retreated at the same time. No one dared to disobey a Jindan. At this time, Clear Sky Old Forefather's gaze casually turned to Golden Crow City. Chapter 298, Insanity, Who Killed Zhuguang? Clear Sky Old Forefather's voice was not loud but could be heard from far away. With Clear Sky Old Forefather stalking outside, Zhuemo didn't dare to idly relax on the lucky cloud like he did previously. However, this did not stop him for feeling scorn. Gu finally knows why the people from Clear Sky sect waste so many words. It starts at the top. Snort, several people couldn't resist laughing out loud. The tense atmosphere instantly relaxed. Zhuemo may have been speaking so, but he was actually very nervous inside. Wukong Sword Sect had 4 Jindan experts, but he had never seen any Jindan expert release their presence without any restraint. Even that day that Wei Xing entered Juji, Xian Yen Shibwa had not used all of his power. The pressure Clear Sky Old Forefather gave Zhuemo was like a whole mountain pressing down. He almost couldn't breathe. Jindan was just as terrifying as he expected. He didn't have any interest in wasting words. Since the two had gotten to this step, they didn't need any excuse to fight. What, first diplomacy, then war, wasn't that just nonsense? Formation Battle Watchtowers, attack together. Zhuemo gritted out the order. The silver light of the 36 Formation Battle Watchtowers exploded. Hundreds of bolts of hard light covered Clear Sky Old Forefather like raindrops. Slightly interesting. Clear Sky Old Forefather smiled easily, his figure suddenly disappearing from his spot. Hundreds of hard lightning bolts missed and vanished into the sky. Hiss, Zhuemo couldn't help but inhale. Such a fast speed. His consciousness could not catch Clear Sky Old Forefather's speed. It was the first time he had encountered a situation like this. The other Xiuzha in Golden Crow City all paled. No one could keep up with the speed of Clear Sky Old Forefather. He was so fast that even the hard lightning was slightly slower. Even Zhuemo had predicted that this battle would be extremely difficult, but it seemed the level of difficulty far surpassed his imagination. Without needing Zhuemo to give the order, the second wave of hard lightning shot towards Clear Sky Old Forefather. It was ineffective. Zhuemo silently shook his head. The other was too fast, so fast that even the hard lightning could not catch up. As expected, Clear Sky Old Forefather disappeared from his spot again. Couldn't catch him. Zhuemo's pupils suddenly contracted. That wasn't right. Clear Sky Old Forefather suddenly appeared in front of a bolt of hard lightning and raised his palm. ZZT ZZT ZZT. The hard lightning seemed to have been stopped by an invisible wall that did not allow it to advance. It stopped at a place 3 CUN from his upright palm. Clear Sky Old Forefather calmly reached out to pinch the hard lightning. Pia pia pia. The explosive hard lightning sounded and the snake-like electrical energies wrapped onto his finger. Clear Sky Old Forefather seemed to not notice it. He put the hard lightning bolt in front of him and examined it. The flashing silver electricity reflected on his face, suddenly light and then it went dim. The idea is clever, very rare, very rare. A hint of shock came onto Clear Sky Old Forefather's face. Other than surprise, he seemed to have admiration. As his words landed, 2 white and narrow fingers pinched. The hard lightning bolt between the fingers was squeezed into countless pieces of electricity and dissipated between his fingers. Golden Crow City was in a deathly silence. Everyone was shocked by this scene. Terror came onto Zhuemo's face. That was hard lightning. Using fingers to crush hard lightning, that wasn't possible. Zhuemo's mind was blank. The strength of Clear Sky Old Forefather was far out of his imaginations. He stood there, dumbstruck. Clear Sky Old Forefather wasn't in a hurry. He asked faintly, who built the Formation Battle Watchtowers? They can be spared from death. Zhuemo gradually recovered. Thinking about how stunned he had been, he was slightly embarrassed. So he was this afraid of death. The surroundings were deathly silent. Golden Crow City was completely suppressed by Clear Sky Old Forefather. Some people even had expressions of hopelessness. Zhuo Mo's gaze accidentally swept across the female Xiao beside him. Just like usual, the female Xiao was silently standing beside him like a wooden person. She was completely unaffected by Clear Sky Old Forefather. Zhuo Mo was even more embarrassed. Gu wasn't even as good as a woman. He raised his head and gazed at Clear Sky Old Forefather floating in the sky. His anger suddenly erupted like fire. This guy looked quite fine, but his intentions were extremely malicious. In this guy's eyes, the lives of other Xiuzhe were not even worth a jingshe. The more Zhuo Mo thought, the angrier he became. If it wasn't for this guy, he would have left Little Mountain Jia a long time ago. He wouldn't be worried and frightened every day like he was now. Gu will play with you to the end today. Zhuo Mo became determined. Terror and fear instantly flew away. Continue to shoot. Zhuo Mo ordered murderously. The other people stilled. Continue to shoot. But that was completely ineffective. However, when their gaze met Zhuo Mo's vicious gaze, they instantly shook. Boss was going all out. They became fully alert, and their terror of Clear Sky Old Forefather instantly dissipated greatly. The formation battle watchtowers lit up again. Scorn spilled out of the corner of Clear Sky Old Forefather's eyes. The light brightening, the hard lightning shot at Clear Sky Old Forefather again like raindrops. Do not stop. Zhuo Mo's shout could be heard by the entire city. The Xiuzhe in the formation battle watchtowers put their all in as their hearts shook. The hard lightning was like rain, and extremely loud. A light laugh passed from within the torrent of hard lightning. Not one bolt of hard lightning managed to touch the hem of Clear Sky Old Forefather's clothes. This time, he did not disappear from his spot, but nimbly dodged among the hard lightning rain. For some unknown reason, his speed did not appear to be quick, but not one hard lightning bolt could hit him. When Clear Sky Old Forefather's light laugh landed in the ears of the Xiuzhe in the formation battle watchtowers, it instantly enraged all of them. All of them furiously channeled Ling power into the formation battle watchtower. The light of the 36 formation battle watchtowers was so bright one could not look directly at them. The hard lightning was even more heavy like a storm. With a savage presence, it head over. Kiki. The light laugh of Clear Sky Old Forefather clearly passed into the ears of everyone present again. Zhuo Mo's tightly pressed lips suddenly curved slightly upwards on one side. Clang! In the sky above Golden Crow City, the Buddha sound hoop suddenly released a ball of golden light. The lingering Buddhist sound rose up. An invisible ripple suddenly spread with Golden Crow City as the center. The killing move of Sky Ring Moon Chime Formation, Moon Chime Sound Storm. Clear Sky Old Forefather who had been composed from the start suddenly froze in surprise. Unable to dodge in time, a bolt of hard lightning hit his face. Pia. Electrical snakes danced on his face. The body of Clear Sky Old Forefather froze. Pia pia pia. Several more bolts of hard lightning hit his body in succession. Boom. The writhing electrical snakes collided with each other, and released a blinding light. Clear Sky Old Forefather was completely covered by the hard lightning, and it was hard to make out his figure. Ha! Zhuo Mo was very excited and wanted to jump up. The reason that he had ordered the formation battle watchtowers to continue to shoot was to give Clear Sky Old Forefather the impression that the formation battle watchtowers were their biggest support. His mind was connected with Lil Pagoda. The timing to which the Moon Chime Sound Storm was activated was perfect. So what if he's a Jin Dan? Didn't Ji just trick him? Zhuo Mo was very smug and felt unspeakable comfortable like he had eaten a ginseng fruit. However, he didn't hope that the hard lightning was enough to kill Clear Sky Old Forefather. The other's actions of crushing the hard lightning proved that hard lightning of this degree could not cause fatal damage. However, after this successful attack on Clear Sky Old Forefather, the morale of the troops rose. The heavy pressure that was previously present in the city was swept away. Everyone's faces showed excited expressions. While most of the Xiuzhi inside Golden Crow City were Ningmai, and was just a level from Jindan, but 90% of the people had never seen Jindan fight before. Every action that Clear Sky Old Forefather had made had all been to show how strong he was, so strong that it made people feel hopeless. Zuomo used his actions to prove that Jindan could be hit too. Everyone was greatly motivated. Every one of them believed that this battle might be unparalleled in difficulty, but they did have a chance at victory. They did not fear that battle would be difficult, but they were afraid all of their efforts would be all for naught. The silver light dissipated, and Clear Sky Old Forefather once again appeared in front of everyone. When they clearly saw Clear Sky Old Forefather's state, everyone roared in laughter. Clear Sky Old Forefather's robe now had some holes like that of a beggar. What really set them off uncontrollably was the black burns on his face. Suemo roared with laughter. He suddenly flew into the sky, his right hand raised up high as he shouted at everyone in the city, "Everyone, listen well. Shout with me." Everyone stopped laughing. They raised their heads, furiously gathering their Ling power. Excitement and exhilaration was on everyone's faces. Suemo turned around, and faced Clear Sky Old Forefather. He took a deep breath, pointed with his finger towards Old Forefather, and hollered, "Old Fart." The 7,000 or so people inside Golden Crow City used all their strength to shout at the same time, "Old Fart." The simultaneous shout of more than 7,000 people was so loud that even the mountain peaks trembled, and the echoes reflected back. Suomo's eyes were glaring angrily. Using all the strength in his body, he shouted again, "Don't show off." All of Golden Crow City followed in shouting, "Don't show off." Suemo shouted at the top of his lungs, "Show-offs get struck by lightning." Everyone felt the blood in their bodies shoot towards their heads. Without thinking, the Ling power in their bodies channeling to the limit, more than 7,000 people shouted angrily in unison, "Show-offs get struck by lightning." The shout passed into the surroundings. A sound wave exploded with Golden Crow City as the center, the sound not any less than the previous, moon chime sound storm. The entire mountain valley was echoing, struck by lightning, ing. Suemo felt unspeakably great. His hands on his hips, he threw his head back and laughed, "Ha ha 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 ha." An excited blush was on everyone's faces. They all copied Suemo in putting their hands on their hips and throwing their heads back to laugh. Ha 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 ha. The laughter of more than 7,000 people was filled with excitement and bravado, able to be heard from far away. Roan Wei gaped and was stunned. The middle-aged person's face was filled with shock. However, the large male was very excited, repeating to himself, "So great. So great. This is so great." Green and white intermingled on Clear Sky Old Forefather's face. All of the calmness, the mannerisms of an expert was thrown to the back of his head. His hair loose, his eyes gleamed viciously like a poisonous snake waiting to strike. Suemo seemed to be completely mad at this point. He raised his hand again. Everyone saw his hand motions, and suppressed their own voices. Golden Crow City became so silent that the sound of a needle landing on the ground could be heard. Suomo's eyes were entirely red, and he said murderously, "Brothers." He paused slightly and then exploded, "Fuck him." The thousands under him didn't even think as they shouted together, "Fuck him." Suemo felt all the emotions inside reached a peak. He suddenly increased his volume again as he raged, "Kill him." Everyone was glaring as they hollered together, "Kill him." The killing energy was so much that the sky changed color. Chapter 299, The Great Formation and Sonic Lightning Walnut. The Clear Sky Old Forefather felt an angry energy roiling restlessly inside his chest. Without a care to anything else, he took out his flying sword and said darkly, "You all will die." Before the sound landed and Zhuo Mo was even able to see the appearance of the flying sword disappeared from in front of Clear Sky Old Forefather. Everyone in Golden Crow City felt the entire sky start to slowly spin. Everything in the surroundings started to become blurry. Zhuo Mo suddenly remembered that Huang Zhuoguang used the sky sword essence. Then Clear Sky Old Forefather's sky sword essence would probably be multiple times as pure. Damn it! It would be better if the guy would fly a bit closer. Zhuo Mo glanced at Clear Sky Old Forefather that was still far away from Golden Crow City and had to admire the person. Even though he was so angry, he still kept his calm. As expected of a Jindan expert. The spinning sky suddenly lit up with many dots of light like countless stars being ignited. A feeling of extreme danger came into Zhuo Mo's mind. He didn't dare to be careless, hurriedly activating the formation. Countless formation scripts suddenly lit up on the walls of Golden Crow City like complex flower patterns. A half-transparent golden ling shield wrapped Golden Crow City inside. Everyone's hearts eased slightly. At this moment, they heard Clear Sky Old Forefather say clearly, "Land." The dots of light above their heads lit up, and countless swords of light fell from the skies like a rainstorm, crashing against the ling shield of Golden Crow City. The ling shield trembled heavily. The sharp sounds of collisions were as rapid as raindrops. Everyone felt their hearts jump at each sound. Zhuo Mo pulled Shu Long over. "Use the move you used last time." Shu Long understood and hurried back to the ranks. Shu Long's long hair flying, the black crystal on his forehead, and his eyes bent down. He shouted gravely, "Kill." Threads of black energy erupted from their bodies at an astounding rate. In the blink of an eye, the ranks of guard camp were covered in a black energy that blocked out the sun. As the black energy rose, it was not affected by the ling shield, and gathered in the sky above Golden Crow City. A ball of restless black clouds covered all of Golden Crow City. The raindrops of sword energies instantly became invisible as they landed in the black cloud. The Clear Sky Old Forefather showed surprise again. Even with all of his knowledge, he did not know what powerful spell the other was using. In the Zhuo Mo's Sea of Consciousness, Pu Yao unconcernedly said to the gravestone, "This old fart, just a Jindan, and he dares to posture in front of this Sky Yao. He doesn't want to live." His eyebrow rose, and he snorted, "Fuck him." He suddenly found his tone when he said this was truly too much like Zhuo Mo. He instantly chose to close his mouth. As a Sky Yao, copying other people's way of talking, especially Zhuo Mo, made him feel he was losing face. It's just a pity that Shu Long and his group has only cultivated for a short amount of time. Otherwise, so boring. Pu Yao said to himself. For the first time, Clear Sky Old Forefather had a serious expression. It had been a scheme of the other that had caused him to be struck by the formation battle watchtowers. But this black cloud clearly was some kind of spell or formation. This was true power. To be able to stop the attack of a Jindan Shouja, it truly could be called powerful. It didn't seem too much like a spell. With a Ningmai cultivation, it wasn't possible to cast such a powerful spell. The only thing he could think of was formations. But a normal sect couldn't possess such a powerful formation. This group of people probably had mighty origins. Clear Sky Old Forefather's heart jumped. He wasn't afraid of this group of Ningmai. Even if he had to kill all of them, it would just take him some more time. What he was worried about was if he killed the young ones, the old one would come. With the wealth of Clear Sky sect, they didn't have such a powerful formation. If an even more powerful expert came, then he would have a terrible ending. Clear Sky Old Forefather knew how much he was worth. Being a ruler in an out-of-the-way place like Little Mountain Jia was achievable, but if he was in the larger Jias, he would never get a turn. However, he turned his thinking around. Since the grievance between the two had already been set and could not be resolved, the best solution was to kill this entire group and prevent the news from spreading. Thinking about this, the viciousness in his eyes grew, and he was filled with murderous intent. He had spent great amount of time on clear sky sword scripture. Other than this flying sword, he had nothing else on his body. He reached out with his finger, and a sword energy multiple zhang thick shot down. The sword energy seemed to collide with the black cloud when it suddenly turned to countless tiny sword energies that nimbly went around the black cloud and smashed on the Ling shield of Golden Crow City. Clang! The countless sword energies were like countless transparent snakes that hit the Ling shield at the same exact moment. When the sound of the collisions gathered together, it was one sound that entered everyone's ears. The Ling shield of Golden Crow City shook fiercely. Suo Mo's expression changed slightly. He controlled all of Golden Crow City, and he was aware just how strong this attack had been. If something like this came a few more times, the Ling shield of Golden Crow City would collapse. He bit his lips tightly. Xiuzha at Jindan were too outrageously powerful. What was the grade of this old fart's flying sword? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. At this point, there was no time to think, they could only bear it. Clear Sky Old Forefather flew in the sky and didn't land at all. He was too far away and so they couldn't use any other moves. His mind suddenly moved. Pointing above his head, he shouted at Shu Long, "Can you change that to a different shape and cover the Ling shield?" Shu Long grimaced and didn't dare to speak. The Crow Fiend Mo kill formation was at its limit. The black cloud slowly started to land. In the end, it landed on the Ling shield. Following that, it started to fall against the Ling shield. After a while, it completely covered the Ling shield. Everyone felt the sky darken and the city was in darkness. Clear Sky Old Forefather saw this and was overjoyed. This way, didn't they trap themselves inside? The black cloud might increase the defenses of the Ling shield, but they had blocked their own sight. Even he couldn't see what was inside the black cloud. He didn't believe the other could see. Idiotic. However, this was the difference in strength. The difference between the two sides was too great. The murderous intent in Clear Sky Old Forefather's eyes reached a peak. How could he miss such a good opportunity? He didn't seem to move but suddenly disappeared from his spot and appeared dozens of zhang above Golden Crow City. Looking at Golden Crow City under his feet that was wrapped in the black cloud, a cruel smile was on his lips. All of you should die. He raised his palm. A flying sword as blue as the sky appeared at the center of his palm and floated silently. He gently pushed up. The flying sword turned to a blue light, flew into the sky and disappeared. Suddenly, a bright dot of light appeared in an extremely distant place far above his head. A smug expression came onto his face. How long has it been since he used this move? Too long. His famed killing move appearing again. It really was emotional. No one could stop this killing move, no one ever had. Golden Crow City was soon to disappear, to be forcefully erased from Sky Star Peak. He felt a slight bit of regret. Truthfully, he liked this little city a lot. It was a truly enchanting little city. But everything would be destroyed. The smile on his face suddenly froze. He saw the mountain peaks across from him suddenly shake vigorously. Large patches of earth shifted in rock slides and revealed the granite underneath. What was this? His body was suddenly restrained by an enormous force. The air in the surroundings seemed to become solid and heavy. He tried to move his body. Each movement became extremely difficult. He felt as though he had landed in an enormous spider web. Trap. His head rang and blanked. Immediately after, large burst of lava sprouted out of the earth and slowly advanced along the hills. He saw a soul-shaking scene underneath his feet. There seemed to be an invisible red pen drawing out vivid red lines among the mountains. These lines were determined in their advance as they created a strange picture. Clear Sky Old Forefather felt there were countless strong and heavy chains tying him tightly so he couldn't move. At this time, the black cloud outside Golden Crow City had dissipated. The damned person flew into the sky. Swamo was very proud inside. Did you think Ji couldn't see? Gu has Ling I understand. But he knew this wasn't the time to celebrate. His hand flipping, a sonic lightning walnut covered in golden patterns appeared on his palm. Sonic lightning walnut. Clear Sky Old Forefather saw the sonic lightning walnut in Zwamo's hands. His expression changed dramatically. Zwamo didn't waste words, raising his hand and smashing it at Clear Sky Old Forefather. Boom! When the sonic lightning walnut left Zwamo's palm, it turned to a golden ball of flame the size of his face surrounded by countless silver electrical energies. The sound of the explosions continued, and was extremely shocking. Clear Sky Old Forefather's eyeballs almost fell out. This guy actually used sonic lightning walnuts to make one-use talismans. Was this guy crazy? Sonic lightning walnuts were fourth-grade materials. He suddenly reacted, and his soul almost left his body. Damn it! This was a fourth-grade material. He didn't have the attention to spare for preparing his killing move. The flying sword turned to a stream of light and shot at the sonic lightning walnut flying at Clear Sky Old Forefather. Before he could rejoice, he saw another sonic lightning walnut in Zwamo's hands. The surface was covered with golden patterns, just like the previous one. Clear Sky Old Forefather instantly turned white. He couldn't spare the energy for anything else. He furiously channeled his Ling power to break from his restraints. All the Ling power inside his body was used. His figure started to move bit by bit. After a while, the speed increased greatly. Seeing the situation, Zwamo knew this was the most important moment. Disregarding the pain in his heart, he threw and then another walnut appeared in his hand. In one go, he threw out more than 10 sonic lightning walnuts. The golden balls of fire carried a savage presence as they headed for Clear Sky Old Forefather who was moving at turtle speed. The sky filled with the sound of explosions like countless waves of lightning rolling past and caused the mountains to shake. Clear Sky Old Forefather's complexion could not be described by white any longer. He didn't have the bravery. He had never seen someone forge sonic lightning walnuts into one-use talismans. How wealthy was that person that he dared to do so? Boom! Clear Sky Old Forefather's flying sword accurately struck a sonic lightning walnut and exploded. Zwamo felt light explode in his vision. The light was so blinding that only golden light remained in his eyes and he was unable to see anything else. Boom boom boom. Zwamo's eyes could only see golden light, so bright that he was blind. He felt an enormous beast had charged at him, and his entire body was thrown into the air. He was dumbstruck. Chapter 300, Sacrifice. Zwamo barely managed to steady himself. It was the female Shio that reached out a hand to catch him. Blood was streaming out of his ears and nose. His face was white, the Ling armor and clothes all torn to pieces. The power from the explosions of more than 10 sonic lightning walnuts was far outside of his imagination. Nothing was left at Clear Sky Old Forefather's position. Thinking about that terrifying power, and the strength that could topple mountains and flip the seas, Zwamo's calves shook. In a flash, he thought about the first time he had used a Yin fire bead. Gu had been careless. The Yin beads he had made in the past were second grade. The stalagmite fire was also a second-grade fire, but the power of the Yin fire bead forged was already great. How could the power of something forged through sonic lightning walnuts and golden crow fire be weak? They were all fourth grade. The golden thread lightning walnut forged from 2 types of fourth-grade materials using the Yin fire bead forging method was unparalleled in its power. If he had been even the slightest bit closer, he would have. He felt fear, but since they finally killed Clear Sky Old Forefather, he hadn't risked his life for nothing. Suddenly, a feeling of danger came into his heart. He reflexively raised his head. An enormous shadow carrying a threatening presence dived down at astounding speed from the sky above his head. Clear Sky Old Forefather hadn't died. Zhuo Mo's expression changed dramatically. Go die. A shout filled with fury and murderous intent exploded above his head. Clear Sky Old Forefather's clothing and Ling armor and completely broken apart. His hair loose, there was blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth, and his left arm had disappeared. The power of the sonic lightning walnuts had almost destroyed his soul. Under such an emergency, he had used a secret technique at a cost of 3/10 of his cultivation, and had barely managed to escape. But even so, his losses were painful. His left arm had been broken and his flying sword had been destroyed. His most painful loss was the loss of 3/10 of his cultivation. This meant that his cultivation could collapse at any moment and return back to the stage of Ningmai. How could he not be furious? The loss of cultivation was every Shouja's greatest fear. Today, he definitely had to cut these people into pieces. There was only this one thought in Clear Sky Old Forefather's mind. Clear Sky Sword Scripture was pushed to its limits. The sky above Golden Crow City seemed to solidify. In an instant, the sky seemed to become a vast piece of transparent crystal. Clouds, dust, sunlight, everything was solidified in that moment, motionless and lifeless. Sunlight could not pass through the solidified sky. It created an enormous shadow that covered all of Golden Crow City. The silent killing essence caused everyone to feel terror. Ping! The clear sound of crystal breaking. The solidified crystal-like sky suddenly became covered in a web of cracks. The cracks grew at a rapid rate as though there was an invisible hammer continuously striking this piece of crystal sky. Xu Long was stunned. The road they walked was the one of killing essence, and they were most sensitive to killing essence. At this time, they could not attend to anything else. He shouted, "Kill!" The hearts of everyone in guard camp shook, and they shouted simultaneously, "Kill!" The black cloud rose and turned to a black python several dozen zhang long and several zhang thick. With a hiss, it viciously leapt towards Clear Sky Old Forefather who was above Zhuo Mo's head. Clear Sky Old Forefather was not alarmed at all. With a cold laugh, he pointed with a finger. Whoosh! The crystal sky covered in cracks above his head turned to large patches of transparent fragments that spun as they turned to a sword essence twister that dove at the black python. Clear Sky Sword Scripture, Shattering Sky. Boom! The two enormous entities collided without finesse and created an earth-shaking sound. The pitiful Zhuo Mo was thrown up again by the wave of air. Damn it! Several sky sword essence pieces left bloody marks on his body. He disregarded the pain, and looked towards the battlefield. He couldn't help but inhale sharply. Countless crystal-like fragments of sword essence floated in front of Clear Sky Old Forefather. He was bleeding from his mouth and nose. In the collision against the black python, he hadn't escaped unscathed, but his gaze became even more vicious. When Zhuo Mo met Clear Sky Old Forefather's gaze, his heart instantly shook. The other was going all out. Xu Long's figure shook, and he gave a muffled grunt, his face pale. The other camp guards staggered and collapsed as though they were drunk. Pu Yao's anger inside the necklace could not be restrained. Trash! You group of trash! One Jindan makes all of you this sorry looking, how can you live in the future? I, the honored Sky Yao, cannot have such trash under my command. A grimace came onto Xu Long's face. They had just made a breakthrough. They needed a period of time to acclimate themselves with their bodies. Their loss this time really hadn't come at a good time. His eyes suddenly widened, and he had a joyous expression. At some unknown time, the female Xiao appeared behind Clear Sky Old Forefather, and pointed. There was a chance. Everyone had ecstatic expressions. They had all seen with their own eyes before how powerful the female Xiao was. The female Xiao was definitely the strongest person in all of Golden Crow City. She finally acted. For some unknown reason, Zuo Mo's heart suddenly sank. The purple light in the female Xiao's eyes were as bright as two balls of purple fire. It was the first time he had seen the purple light in her eyes be so bright. Ha 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 ha. All of you, die. Clear Sky Old Forefather laughed madly. The shattered crystal sky above his head suddenly collapsed. Countless transparent sword essence fragments flowed down like an avalanche. Countless fragments passed through Clear Sky Old Forefather's body in burst of blood. Clear Sky Old Forefather did not feel the pain and continued to laugh. Zuo Mo's head rang. A suicidal attack. He wanted them to perish together. The area of the sky multiple mu large above Golden Crow City had completely collapsed. Countless, vast, and ethereal sword essence fragments with an unstoppable presence fell from the sky. Countless sword essences penetrated Clear Sky Old Forefather's body. They turned from glowing and transparent to becoming blood-stained glass. The vast and ethereal sword essence suddenly had a presence that was determined and tragic. With the sky as the sword, using the body as the guide, blood sky. Everyone's face became pale. It was a terrifying matter if a Jindan Shioha decided to take everyone to the gates of hell with him. Watching from afar, Rong Wei's expression changed. There was only one thought in her mind: Golden Crow City was finished. The large male and the middle-aged person changed expressions at the same time. A thought simultaneously flashed through their minds: Golden Crow City was finished. There was no difficulty for a Jindan Shioja to use a secret technique to release an attack with all their power without regard for the consequences. As a result, fights between Jindan were more cautious. If one side was pushed to the precipice, their last attack before death was extremely terrifying. Even Rong Wei and the others had never seen a Jindan expert go all out. Rong Wei was stunned. She was very knowledgeable, but the power of Clear Sky Old Forefather was far beyond of her predictions. Even among Sky Water Jia's Jindan, Clear Sky Old Forefather's power would definitely rank among the top 3. At this time, she suddenly understood why the Marquis was so wary of Clear Sky Old Forefather. For some reason, she sighed inside. They admired Golden Crow City for pushing a Jindan to the point they had to fight using their life. It was just a pity. The entire sky above Golden Crow City was pulled in. All of the sword essence had completely lost control. As Clear Sky Old Forefather laughed crazily, his entire person exploded into a ball of bloody mist and was completely sucked into the uncontrolled sword essences. An area 50 li in radius around Golden Crow City was completely covered. What made people feel hopeless was that any movement method would be ineffective in leaving the area covered by the sword essence. They couldn't even escape. Unless they also were Jindan and had high-grade movement methods could they escape this calamity. The sky covered everything with the blood-colored sword essence and was unavoidable. Lava flowed among the 7 mountain peaks. Golden Crow City seemed to become hell. Damn it! Hopelessness floated on Zuo Mo's face. Suddenly, his side darkened, and a figure appeared in front of him. It was her. The female Xiao was covered in bloody marks. Blood had soaked through many parts of her clothing. That pair of perfect bare feet was even more heart-moving in the patch of blood. Some time ago, the mask on her face had been destroyed and revealed her hideous face. Zuo Mo first stilled. When he wanted to speak, the female Xiao suddenly flew over his head. Her arms were open like a big bird, her face raised, and her entire body consumed in the purple flame. She was like a moth flying towards the fire, heading straight for the blood-colored sword tide that was crashing down. The purple fire was burning so high they could not make out her figure. For an unknown reason, Zuo Mo's chest suddenly felt extreme pain. His tears uncontrollably flooded out, large teardrops falling down his face. What was going on? Who are you? The tears blurred his vision, his chest was in great pain as though something was going to erupt. His ears could only hear the howls of the sword essence covering the sky above his head that had formed a flood and had an appearance of an apocalyptic disaster. Pain. Time suddenly became extremely slow. The extreme pain at his chest was so clear at this moment, like a thread of flame burning constantly. Under that sword essence wave, the figure covered in the purple flame was as minuscule as dust. So painful. The pain burned every one of his nerves. He couldn't suppress it any longer, using all of his strength to shout, "Errorf!" The enormous pain was like a tide, coming in brutally and sweeping his entire body. He didn't seem to detect that the bright red lava flowing down the mountains seemed to be pulled up by an invisible hand. In the blink of an eye, the lava wrapped around his legs. The damaged great formation on the ground suddenly lit up with a red light. The damaged formation actually managed to still activate. The golden light of Golden Crow City exploded. The lightning from the formation battle watchtowers exploded. The Shilja inside discovered to their shock that the formation battle watchtowers were completely out of their control. Lava, golden light, and hard lightning headed furiously toward Suemo. Ah! Suemo angrily yelled. His entire body was covered in the lava, hard lightning and golden light were flashing occasionally between the lava. The abnormal change disturbed everyone. Shu Long's expression changed. Just as he thought to move, he heard the Darren inside the necklace shout, "Don't disturb him." He stilled and then had a joyous expression. Within the lava, Suemo felt his consciousness and fleshly body had been separated. He could clearly feel the enormous pain in his body, but at this time, he was like a spectator watching over it all. He could see the 5-element glass bead shaking violently inside his body. He saw the figure above his head that was completely enveloped in the purple fire. She was looking at him. At this point, Suemo could see through the purple fire and the lava without any effort. He could see very clearly. He saw a pair of clear eyes filled with joyful surprise and longing. Chapter 301, Desperate Situation. Under the colossal wave of sword energies, the female Shio enveloped in purple flames looked at Suemo deeply. Suemo had a disquieting feeling that time was pulled extremely long in this moment. Their gazes met. The female Shio moved away her eyes, and raised her face again to look at the sword energies falling down towards her. Pia pia pia. Bursts of blood exploded out from her body. She disregarded them. The blood sprayed out and landed in the purple fire, which was like a blood-sucking monster that greedily absorbed the fresh blood. The purple fire grew, snapping and crackling. The hands covered in fresh blood slowly rose up over her head. She took a position as if she was pushing upwards. The purple fire around her quickly streamed towards her upright arms. It was just a simple movement, but it made anyone watching feel it was determined and grim. Her arms pushed upwards. 2 streams of purple fire flowed from her arms and connected end to end. It formed a purple disk of fire about 10 jong large. All the fire on the female Shio's body flowed into the purple fire disk without a drop remaining. The purple fire disk spun eerily over her head. Suemo looked on dazedly. The female Shio, who didn't have any trace of purple fire left on her, no longer bleeding from her wounds, but her torn clothes had already become soaked in blood. Only that pair of bare feet was white and left untouched. What shocked him even more was that he could not feel any hint of a presence from the female Shio. She seemed to have suddenly disappeared, like she had died. Looking coldly from the side, Suemo's emotions suddenly rippled violently. His howls were like that of a wild beast being burned. Lava, hard lightning, and golden light furiously burrowed into his body destructively as they headed for the deepest reaches of his body. The ripple of his emotions was like pouring oil onto the fire. His situation became even more terrible. Any place that was slightly weak was completely burned up when the golden light, hard lightning, and lava passed. Even the muscles and bones that had been sufficiently tempered before were wavering under such a brutal baptism. But at this moment, all of Zhuomo's attention was attracted by the female show. A stream of tears continuously flowed from his eyes, yet he did not detect it. The 5-element glass bead in his chest jumped rhythmically like a heart, as though something was going to break through. She definitely had more than a common connection to him. At this point, Zhuomo was certain of this point. The enchanting purple fire disk spun above the female show's head. A power that made people feel trepidation slowly spread. Who are you? Zhuomo's emotional upheaval became even more violent. He wanted to ask her this question, but his body was completely out of his control. No matter how he tried, he could not reclaim control of his own body. The collapsing sword essence came even closer. Zhuomo's panic increased. Damn it! Why couldn't he control his own body? His heart had a fierce impulse. He wanted to control his own body. He wanted to ask her why. He didn't want her shield him from the front. Damn it! Zhuomo felt there was a ball of fire burning in his chest. He had never had an impulse that was as strong as this one. He knew if he took control of his body at this moment, his soul would have to endure the flames. But, he wanted. Zhuomo's body shook violently. His screams became even more furious. To ask her. His eyes were bright red and bloodshot. The tendons in his forehead had bulged out. The blood vessels in his body were like earthworms. The sword essence sped increasingly near the female Xiao and was less than 10 zhang from the purple fire disk. The female Xiao suddenly lowered her head to look at him. Something seemed to explode in Zhuomo's mind. Boom! His mind blanked. All of the Ling power, consciousness, every drop of power contained in every bit of his muscles suddenly exploded. His body suddenly created an extremely strong attraction. The lava, hard lightning, and golden light that had been rampaging inside his body were sucked in. A familiar yet unfamiliar voice echoed. Don't forget, even in death, you cannot forget, layering and in waves like thunder. In the sky, the colossal sword essence heavily collided on the purple fire disk. Pew pew pew. When a sword energy landed inside the purple fire disk, it was like pouring water into hot oil. Purple wisps of flame spat forth. The sword energies were relentless like a flood as they attacked the purple fire disk. The arms of the female Xiao suddenly became weighted, and her body shook slightly. Zhuomo was like a wild beast at death's door as he furiously howled. The body of the female Xiao shook. Zhuomo's body shook at the same time. He was like an enraged wild beast. Why? His body suddenly started to tremble. An expression of pain came onto his face. His voice uncontrollably became smaller. Why, even if his consciousness had been cultivated, but the pain from his soul being burned would not decrease due to that. The different kinds of forces inside his body seesawed. Enormous pain came from the burning of his soul. He felt like a shrimp being boiled. Every part of his body was trembling. He wanted to ask her, why? The arms of the female Xiao were slowly pushed down. An astounding force passed from the purple fire disk. He gritted his teeth. A stream of fresh blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. He wanted to ask her, why? Zhuomo's entire body shook fiercely, but he didn't shout this time. He had a deathly stare as he bit down on his teeth, a stream of fresh blood coming out of the corner of his mouth. Boom! The flames of the purple fire disk frantically consumed, but there were too many sword energies that forcibly suppressed the flames of the purple fire disk. They continuously pushed down on the purple fire disk. The female Xiao shook even harder. With a muffled grunt, her body suddenly sank down. He wanted to ask her, why below the female Xiao. Zhuomo raised his head with difficulty. His eyes were entirely red and filled with blood. An amazing change was happening to his body. The silver hard lightning swam across the surface of his body like countless silver snakes. The golden light furiously burrowed into his bones and the threads of pure earth fire inside the crimson lava crawled into his channels. Having lost their targets, the Ling and spiritual power slowly steadied. Boom! The figure of the female Xiao above him sank again. The golden light of the Ling shield of Golden Crow City was burning. When the sky full of sword energies smashed onto it, the golden Ling shield rippled. Everyone knew this was the most crucial time, and put all of their power into fighting. Xu Long led the guard camp and activated the Crow Fiend Mo killing formation again. The battle formations of Vermilion Bird Camp were primary offensive. Defense was not one of their talents. The only thing they could do was to activate some of the simpler defensive formations, and contribute as much as they could. Lilith Pagoda spun into a 5-colored afterimage. The Sky Ring Moon Chime formation was pressed to its limits. The Shilja of the eastern and western camps seemed to have gone insane as they furiously switched out the Jingshi. Everyone knew that if the Ling shield broke, no one could escape the calamity. At this time, everyone directly experienced just how strong the female Xiao was. With just her own power, she could stop such a terrifying sword essence. It really was hard to imagine. They had to rely on the big formation of Golden Crow City, and were still wavering when they used all their power. The Ling shield could break at any time. Everyone's face was filled with hopelessness. The sword essence coming down seemed to be endless and unstoppable. A nearby mountain peak was brutally destroyed, only leaving behind the bottom half. If they were not personally experiencing it, no one could imagine that sword essence could reach such a terrifying level. Were their lives really going to be lost here today? This thought uncontrollably flashed across everyone's mind. Gong Sun Cha called over Xia Shan, Ma Fan, and a few others. He said in a low voice, "We probably can't hold out for much longer. Later when the city's Ling shield breaks, you guys take boss and break through." Everyone's face was sorrowful. Each of them tightly bit their lips and didn't speak. Xu Long's nose and mouth bled blood. He bit down on his teeth and continued to channel the Crow Fiend Mo kill formation. Almost everyone in guard camp were bleeding from their nose and mouth. Boom! The enormous power surpassed the limits that the Crow Fiend Mo kill formation could tolerate. Xu Long felt as though someone hammered him hard. His entire body was thrown into the air. The camp guards behind him were also thrown up. The Crow Fiend Mo kill formation was broken. Everyone's expression changed. Without the Crow Fiend Mo kill formation, the Ling shield of Golden Crow City could not last for long. Just as everyone felt it was hopeless, someone suddenly said in a trembling voice, "Boss, boss." Many people instinctively moved their gaze. Even if they would die here today, it wasn't a bad idea if Boss could escape. Many people hoped the female Xiao could take Boss and escape this place. They were filled with terror and hopelessness, but they were not regretful. With Boss, they had a loud and great run. Compared to the lifeless days they had lived before, it was the difference between the earth and the sky. From the bottom of their hearts, they hoped that Boss could live. So when someone exclaimed, many people couldn't resist moving their eyes. Zhuo Mo's body was covered in red, gold, and silver. He was standing upright like a spear. His features were still twisted, but it gave people a completely different feeling. He raised his head and looked at the female Xiao. For some unknown reason, a thread of hope rose in everyone's hearts at the same time. Faster, faster. Panic flashed through Zhuo Mo's eyes. The rampaging forces inside his body had gradually stabilized. His body had gradually returned to his control. He seemed to have entered an unfamiliar body and slowly recovered his strength. It wasn't a long process, but the timing really made him panic. Countless bits of hard lightning swam across the surface of his body, a golden liquid flowed in his bones, the channels were filled with pure and crimson earth fire, his body that had been tempered again. His body had undergone another breakthrough, but at this time, there was no joy in him. He looked with panic at the figure above him. Without the purple fire, the female Xiao looked as weak as a dry leaf in the wind. Boom! The female Xiao's figure sank again, her long hair flying. Faster! Suo Mo's heart suddenly ached. Boom! The female Xiao sank once more. Sparks flew off the purple fire disk and it showed signs of collapsing. Motherfucking faster! Suo Mo's eyes suddenly turned red. Boom! The female Xiao was like a nail that was being hammered down, and unable to stop. Boom! The purple fire disk finally could not stand it anymore. It turned to countless wisps of purple fire and disappeared into the air. The female Xiao seemed to be heavily struck. Her eyes unfocused, her body dropped down at an even more rapid rate. Suo Mo's mind exploded, his body exploded and suddenly became open. All of his strength suddenly poured into his body like water. He disappeared from his spot. In the air, his figure was arched. His back towards the sky, the female Xiao was shielded against his chest. His right hand held a handful of golden thread lightning walnuts. Like he was crazy, he threw them viciously at the howling sword essence. Go away. Chapter 302, A New Beginning. Boom. More than 10 sonic lightning walnut exploded at the same time. A blinding and scorching light passed through his back. Suo Mo felt his back was heavily struck. His throat turned sweet and then he spat out blood. Before he had the time to respond, like a meteorite falling from the sky, he and the female Xiao smashed heavily into the dirt. Ping! The ground was really hard. That was the last thought before Suo Mo fainted. Ma Fan looked at the half-collapsed city walls. Thinking about the scene from 2 days ago, he still felt fear. The big formation inside Golden Crow City had been completely damaged, and almost all of the formation battle watchtowers were ruined. Most importantly, Boss had thrown out a huge number of sonic lightning walnuts to save everybody. The simultaneous explosion of the sonic lightning walnuts had forcibly cleared out an empty area 20 mu in diameter. The mountains around Golden Crow City did not have such good luck and had been bombarded and left half standing. Not one mountain peak remained whole. There was no untouched land near Golden Crow City. Everything was in disarray. In the sky, it was possible to see Xiuzha from Vermilion Bird Camp patrolling everywhere. After the battle, some Xiuzha had nefarious aims, and wanted to get rich. They were completely annihilated by the members of Vermilion Bird Camp, who had a whole belly full of frustration. In the defense of the city, Vermilion Bird Camp's utility had been pitifully small. This made them feel especially irritated. They had almost all died, and were even unable to take Boss and escape. To the Vermilion Bird Camp that had been trained through many battles and successfully won, this undoubtedly was a great humiliation. No one had expected that, in the end, Boss had saved everyone. Thinking about it now, it still seemed like a dream. There was not much joy on Ma Fan's face. Boss was still unconscious now. This caused a heavy cloud to settle on everyone's hearts. In this present group, Boss was the true leader. No one could imagine what they would become if Boss wasn't present. Maybe this group that had been so difficult to gather together would face a fate of collapse. Ma Fan chewed on a stalk of green grass as his feet unconsciously kicked pebbles. Old Fan, old Fan. His ears suddenly heard Xia Shan's joyous voice. Oh. He turned his face and dazedly responded. Xia Shan said urgently, Boss woke up. It was as though Ma Fan was struck by lightning. After a moment, he suddenly reacted, and asked hurriedly, Boss woke up. He just woke up. It was just my turn to stand guard. Xia Shan said with slight pride. That's great. Ma Fan muttered to himself. Isn't it? This is great. The news that Suemo woke up quickly spread through Golden Crow City. Golden Crow City rejoiced, the gloom of the past days swept away. Suemo felt his body hurt all over as though it was being torn apart. He couldn't help but give a deep groan. Looking at the familiar faces, joy at surviving the calamity washed over his heart. His expression suddenly changed and asked Gongsun Cha, "Where's the female show?" Gongsun Cha's expression became strange. "How is she?" Suemo was very alarmed. Even though he did not know the actual situation, but there definitely was a great connection between him and the female show. The scene of the female show sacrificing herself to save him, and that pair of eyes filled with emotion flashed in front of his eyes. "Who are you?" Suemo could find the answer to many of the problems haunting him on her body. She could not die. Seeing Suemo's panic, Gongsun Cha did not joke and revealed, "Come and you'll understand." When Suemo saw the female show, he was dumbstruck. The female show silently sat in the corner of the room, and didn't seem to notice the existence of the two of them. Her cultivation, Suemo asked in a trembling voice. Gongsun Cha shook his head. "She woke up before you did, but for some reason, her cultivation disappeared." Suemo's heart suddenly sank. He silently walked in front of the female show. When he saw the female show's empty eyes, his heart couldn't help but shake, and his nose felt sore. That pair of clear and joyous eyes. She sat silently. When Suemo walked in front of her, she did not seem to detect it. Suemo reached out and waved a hand in front of her. She still did not respond. "Inspect her body," Pu Yao's voice suddenly sounded. He was quite stern. Suemo tightly pressed together his lips, reached out a hand and placed it on her body. She was motionless like a wooden puppet. Suemo's expression changed. The channels inside her body had all broke, the strange purple power had disappeared to leave behind an extremely minuscule thread of life as though it was a candle flickering in the wind, that could be extinguished at any time. He couldn't even feel her soul. Why was it like this? Suemo's mind rang and blanked. After a long time, he refocused. Looking at the female show's hideous and wooden face, especially when his gaze landed on the empty pupils, a certain chord in his heart was gently plucked. The confused gaze suddenly became determined. He entered the sea of consciousness and looked at Pu Yao. Pu Yao glanced at him and said, "I know what you want to ask. Truthfully, it's very difficult." Pu Yao's voice was deep and solemn without any of the mockery it usually held. Suemo's expression was serious. "Tell me." Pu Yao did not raise any conditions. He looked at Suemo, and threw a ball of light with formation scripts floating on the surface. He said, "This is, adversity overcoming scripture. I got it from a Diana show. Maybe it can be of use." Suemo's mind jumped and he hurriedly took the light ball. "Don't be happy prematurely. This scripture can only support this thread of life remaining in her body." Pu Yao said heavily, "If you want to save her, the best method is to get a water cloud embryo." "Water cloud embryo?" Suemo asked curiously. He hadn't ever heard this name before. Water cloud embryo can nurture souls, and is the best for soul injuries. Soul injuries? Her secret technique is very strange. It burns the soul to create great power. Pu Yao's expression was grave. "It is the first time I have seen such a strange secret skill. Her origins, I'm afraid, are not simple." When he finished, Pu Yao looked at Suemo. He felt somewhat strange inside. Suemo probably wasn't simple himself since he had a connection with such a complex female show. However, he had never seen uncommon qualities in Suemo. Pu Yao gathered his thoughts and continued, "She should have definitely died this time, but fortunately, she had left a soul thought inside your body." Suemo's voice shocked and he interrupted, "She has a soul thought inside my body. Her soul thought is inside that 5-element glass bead in your body." Pu Yao secretly celebrated that he had not crushed that bead. 1. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome now. 5-element glass bead, Zhuemo murmured to himself. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, you can see some of the mysteries inside, Pu Yao said. This 5-element glass bead is a very rare treasure. Zhuemo's hand unconsciously balled into a fist. He was suddenly filled with motivation. For a long time, he had lacked a clear goal, including his time at Wukong Mountain. Long days of low-level living had caused his expectations of life to be very low. When his most basic needs were fulfilled, he had been lost. The unexpected encounter between him and the female Xiao now seemed like fate. He knew the female Xiao definitely was very important to him. How important would the connection be that the other would place a soul thought inside his body? He could not think of it, but he knew that no one other than the female Xiao could do this. Just this was enough. Leaving the sea of consciousness, he looked at the female Xiao. Her disfigured and wooden face could not cause any revulsion in him now. Suddenly, he thought of his past zombie face, and laughed. The fate of the zombie and female ghost. In the future, you will be a Gui. The female Xiao was unmoved. Adversity overcoming scripture was extremely cryptic and complex. The main reason was that Zhuemo didn't know much about many of the things of Diana Xiao. Pu Yao did not know much about Diana Xiao either. According to him, he had taken this from the body of a Diana Xiao he killed. Luckily, Zhuemo had Zhong Ru, who was a much more orthodox Diana Xiao, to help him resolve many of the parts. Pu Yao's judgment was correct. Adversity overcoming scripture was able to help a Gui stabilize the thread of life. Under the Buddha mantra, the deathly presence on a Gui's body dissipated greatly. Zhuemo was very encouraged and worked even harder. After a few days, Gongsun Cha led a female Xiao to Zhuemo. Zhuemo looked with puzzlement at Gongsun Cha. Shitty, this is Miss Roan Wei. Gongsun Cha first made introductions and then said, she hopes to work with us. With us? Zhuemo stilled. Roan Wei bowed and said, this one is from Sky Water Jie's House of the Crow Marquis and has been ordered to come to Little Mountain Jie to investigate stars in daytime. This one asks Darren for your aid. She then took out a few talismans. A small token of our intentions, please accept them. Stars in daytime. Zhuemo's heart jumped. Damn it, stars in daytime, wasn't that caused by him? What were the origins of this Crow Marquis house? Why were they investigating him? His heart instantly became wary. He pretended to be confused and asked, we did see the stars in daytime, but what does this apparition mean? Miss Roan Wei, please teach us. This one does dare to teach. Roan Wei bowed slightly. The old records say that when stars in daytime appear, there are great Yao and great Emo healing. Great Yao and great Emo. Zhuemo's heart jumped again. He finally understood. It seemed he needed to be careful in the future. If this appeared a few more times, he would be in danger. And, the Marquis believes Great Yao may have infiltrated Little Mountain Jie, Roan Wei said. This was the most probable guess. A Yao army had appeared in Little Mountain Jie, and now a Great Yao, that wasn't too much of a surprise. But what was there in Little Mountain Jie that made the Yao put so much effort and even be injured? Zhuemo secretly released a breath inside. He hurriedly shook his head. Miss Roan is joking. We aren't enough if a Yao army comes, much less a Great Yao. We plan on immediately leaving Little Mountain Jie to go to Sky Water Jie. Your house resides in Sky Water Jie, and we are unfamiliar with the area. At that time, please guide us. Roan Wei was slightly disappointed, but she had expected this. Unless there was a special order, no one was willing to stay for long in Little Mountain Jie. She had come this time with the intentions of making acquaintances. The power of Golden Crow City, even if they entered Sky Water Jie, would definitely be a significant force. There were no disadvantages to forming good relationship now. Before, she had the idea of recruiting Gongsun Cha, but after personally seeing the battle that day, her thought had instantly disappeared. This kind of person was not someone she could recruit. Fortunately, the aim of her visit this time had been realized. She smiled slightly and took out a jade card to hand to Zhuemo. This one still has duties, and cannot accompany everyone. It is very regretful. If you have any problem, you can take this card to travel to the house of the Crow Marquis. The Marquis would definitely welcome everyone. The two sides chatted a bit more before Ronwei left. We are going to Sky Water Jie? Gongsun Cha suddenly asked. 1. Friendly reminder from Wandering Yumi of Doom. During the first few interactions between Pu and Zhuemo, Zhuemo angered Pu to the point Pu was going to kill him. The bead attempted to intervene and save Zhuemo. Pu intended to destroy the bead, but the gravestone stopped him. Chapter 303, Leaving Little Mountain Jie. We need to leave this place quickly, Zhuemo said decisively. Little Mountain Jie isn't a safe place. When are we leaving? Gongsun Cha then asked. Get everyone to pack, then prepare for departure. Let them prepare well. When we pass through the Clear Sky sect, there may be a hard battle. All right. Gongsun Cha instantly went out to prepare. Everyone in Golden Crow City started to move. Zhuemo released all of the outer hall captives. Clear Sky Old Forefather had been killed, which was a fatal blow to the outer hall Shouja. At this point, no one would be willing to sell their life for Clear Sky sect. The Battle of Golden Crow City had shaken Little Mountain Jie. Right now, everyone knew that the sky had changed for Little Mountain Jie and no one was willing to stay in this cage. In the span of a few days, almost all of the remaining Shouja from Little Mountain Jie had gathered outside Golden Crow City. They looked with awe at this little town of which only remained half standing. Everyone knew this place held the hope to leave Little Mountain Jie. No one made trouble, they only watched from a distance. When Vermilion Bird Camp's patrols passed, many people bowed of their own initiative. From a distance, there was a spectacularly dense patch of Shouja outside Golden Crow City. Will there be trouble? Nian Lu asked worriedly. Who's afraid? Lei Peng was unconcerned. We can kill as many of these as they come. Ha, that's true. Pride flashed across Nian Lu's face. Before, who could have thought there would be a day like this? It's worth it even if I die. Lei Peng rumbled, I don't want to die. Boss still has so much good stuff. Maybe we can cultivate to Jindan in the future. You really dare to think? Nian Lu looked into the distance. Suddenly the order to gather came from below. The two exchanged a look. They were going to depart. The Little Mountain Jie Shouja who had been keeping a constant eye on Golden Crow City shifted. After a short while, Vermilion Bird Camp was the first to ascend into the air. The Vermilion Bird Camp of more than 700 people was famed in Little Mountain Jie. When Vermilion Bird Camp collectively flew into the air, many of the people watching from afar sighed with admiration. Look! That's Vermilion Bird Camp. The strongest army of Little Mountain Jie. Whoa! That presence is really frightening. I wonder if they are still hiring. Death would be worth it if I could enter such a troop. Chatter rose among the crowd. People were filled with admiration and awe as they looked at this powerful troop. No one dared to underestimate them, even if there were only 700 people. Vermilion Bird Camp quickly spread out after getting up into the air. They were wary and cautious. Following them were the 5 gigantic slave transporting boats that slowly rose. There were 1,000 black armor camp guards standing on the lead slave transport ship. That was Guard Camp who became famous in one battle. They were not skilled in flying. The enormous and steady slave transporting boats were perfect for them. The pressure of 1,000 camp guards standing on the deck gave people was unparalleled. The appearance of Guard Camp caused a small crescendo of murmuring. The Xiuzhe that had personally seen the heart-shaking battle described the terrifying strength of guard camp to the others. The ferocious killing energy and the ancient battle armor that they wore, which had long disappeared into the river of history, became the topics that interested the people the most. The other for slave transporting boats were used for the eastern camp, western camp and non-combat Xiuzhe. And the last boat was filled with all kinds of materials. Slave transporting boats were enormous. In Little Mountain Jie, 5 slave transporting boats definitely counted as a gigantic fleet. Adding on Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp, this definitely was the strongest fleet of Little Mountain Jie. Zhuemo looked at Golden Crow City below and was filled with emotion. It just had been a few short days, but Golden Crow City had completely transformed. It was broken and shattered. Possibly in the future, this place would become ruins of an ancient city. He raised his head and looked at the sky filled with Xiuzhe in a dense cloud that did not end. He couldn't help but sigh again. After this departure, Little Mountain Jie would become a dead Jie without any people. Maybe this place would become the front lines like Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie had previously been, a paradise of Yamo. Oh, he really had no standing to sigh. Thinking about Puyao in his sea of consciousness, Zhuemo grimaced. However, they could finally leave this place. He looked at Agui beside him. Agui was sitting silently. He turned his face and said to Gongsun Cha, "Depart." The 5 slave transporting boats slowly started to fly forward. Many people looked back at Golden Crow City, their eyes filled with reluctance. This little city had given them hope and sunlight. This little city would become a place they would reminiscence for their entire life. The vast troop flew towards the Jie River toward Sky Water Jie. Along the way, there was a constant stream of Xiuzhe merging with their convoy. The troop became even larger. Each person's face was filled with excitement and exhilaration. They looked with awe at the figure standing on the deck of the lead slave transport ship. There was no light coming from the Ling armor, the not-so-broad figure did not have a grand presence, this normal-looking youth that was outrageously young gave them hope and led them to escape this cage. Not far from their troop, a troop of Yao soldiers watched as they left. "Darren, are we not pursuing them?" "No, we are too exhausted." "But, the order from the Council of Elders is to take Little Mountain Jie at the fastest speed possible, not to do anything else." Rong Wei entered this convoy along the way. Personally seeing this scene, she sighed inside. After this hard battle, the master of Golden Crow City had become the true king of Little Mountain Jie. If he sent down an order right now, there definitely would be many people willing to sell their life for him. In the remaining Xiuzhe of Little Mountain Jie, there was not another person that could be spoken of in the same terms as him. The Xiuzhe from Little Mountain Jie had all chosen to leave. Her mission did not have much meaning then. She didn't think that she could investigate and find something in Little Mountain Jie with just the handful of compound guards she had come with. The best choice right now was to leave with the master of Golden Crow City. She held a high opinion of the master of Golden Crow City. With the group of people under his command, the master of Golden Crow City would be invincible wherever he went. From the battle, she had seen how powerful the master of Golden Crow City was. It was a profitable matter to give someone friendship when they were in their most difficult straits. "Good day, city master." Rong Wei went over and bowed. With a smile, she said, "We will be traveling with you." Zhuemo smiled. "Miss Rong is too courteous." As he finished, he had his people make room. Rong Wei was not courteous and stepped onto the slave transporting boat. The compound guards all held their head and chests high, and shared in the glory. "What does City Master plan to do for the future?" Rong Wei tilted her head and asked. "We'll plan each step when we get there." Zhuemo was very wary of this female Xiu that was investigating stars in daytime. Sky Water Jie isn't a bad place. City Master could consider it, Rong Wei said. Zhuemo shook his head. "Too dangerous, the Yao army can enter Little Mountain Jia at any time. Sky Water Jia is this close to Little Mountain Jia, it is slightly dangerous. Rong Wei stilled. Upon further thought, she instantly stopped speaking. The other's words were very reasonable. She considered whether or not she should urge the Marquis to move the house of the Crow Marquis to a place further away when she returned. Pu Yao suddenly spoke up inside Zuomo's mind, ask her if she has a Jia map. Hearing this, Zuomo's mind moved. He asked Rong Wei, speaking of that, this one has something to request. Oh, please speak, Rong Wei said cautiously. This one's Jia map was lost, and wants to borrow and copy Miss Rong's Jia map, Zuomo said without blushing or an increase in his heartbeat. Hearing this, Rong Wei's heart settled. She said, no problem, but the markings on this one's Jia river are limited, and hope that city master will not be too disappointed. Zuomo hurriedly gave his thanks, took out a blank jade scroll and copied. After he finished, he gave the Jia map jade scroll back to the other and went back to his cabin after bidding farewell. Once he entered the boat cabin, he couldn't wait and took out the Jia map to examine. The Jia map was filled with the names of all the Jia and the Jia rivers connecting them. Zuomo instantly felt his vision broaden. Only today did he discover the general location of Sky Moon Jia and Little Mountain Jia. Sky Moon Jia and Little Mountain Jia were at the corner of the entire Jia map. As expected, it was rural area. He smacked his lips and rubbed his chin as he read intensely, unaware that Pu Yao had also crowded next to him and was examining the Jia map. Such a small Jia map. Pu Yao said with slightly disdain. It's already a lot. There's more than 300 Jia labeled on here. 300 Jia is a lot. Pu Yao seemed to have heard a great joke. Country bumpkin. Zuomo ignored him. It was the first time he saw a Jia map and he was very curious. The labels on the Jia map were very detailed. It even included the specialty products of each Jia. He read on with interest. Around the Jia map were large areas of blank space. Those were probably areas that had never been mapped before. He quickly discovered that there was no information on water cloud embryos on the Jia map. Pu, which Jia produces water cloud embryos? I don't know, Pu Yao said irritably, I'm not familiar with your Xiuzhi territories. Aren't you a Sky Yao? You don't even know this. Zuomo egged him on. Pu Yao tilted his head and smirked coldly. I know of a place, but it is in a Yao Jia, you dare to go? Zuomo instantly was speechless. It seemed he had to do a search when he got to Sky Water Jia. When the vast troop reached Clear Sky Sec's base, they found it was completely empty. Zuomo, who had been expecting another hard battle, was very surprised. When they found out the Clear Sky Sect disciples had all run away, cheers rang out from the troop. Zuomo did not doubt that if any Clear Sky Sect disciples' identity was revealed, and they encountered any Xiuzhi that escaped from Little Mountain Jia, they would die a terrible death. Every single one of the surviving Xiuzhi from Little Mountain Jia hated Clear Sky Sect to the bone. What Zuomo felt was a pity was everything good in Clear Sky Sect had been cleaned out. He didn't stop there, followed the Jia River, and flew toward Sky Water Jia. When they arrived at the airspace above the Jia River, many of the Xiuzhi's tears uncontrollably flowed. They finally believed that they were going to leave this hell-like cage. They could finally return to the life they had been familiar with before. This made everyone excited. Cheers, sobs, venting roars. The sky above the Jia River was very busy. Zuomo wasn't very excited. He looked at a Gui sitting silently beside him, his gaze determined. The other end of the Jia River was just a new beginning. Chapter 304, Great Day Mo Physique. The Jia rivers were hard to cross. Every Jia river was very lengthy. Inside the cabin, Zuomo was focused on cultivation. Golden core. My golden core. Once Pu Yao spoke of the Jindan, he started to become irritable. Fought a Jindan and almost lost your little life, and you didn't get me the golden core. Sui Mo was slightly embarrassed. Before, he had promised to give a Jindan to Pu Yao, but that was unfulfilled. Thinking about it now, Jindan were not as terrifying as he imagined. As long as he had the right method, it was possible to defeat a Jindan. After careful thought, the strongest quality of a Jindan was their speed. This caused Jindan to have the absolute advantage when facing Ningmai Shouja. For a powerful Jindan to kill with a strike was not uncommon, but it was not possible for one strike to kill 10 Ningmai. In comparison, a Jindan's defensive advantage was the least eye-catching. Even though the sword energies of a single Ningmai could not seriously wound them, but if dozens of sword energies struck at the same time, even a Jindan could not bear it. What was most scary was if the Jindan decided to kill everyone at the expense of their life. If a Jindan decided to go all out, the power they could release was multiple times what it was normally. Experience was the most valuable. With the experience from last time, if he had to fight with Clear Sky Old Forefather again, he even had the confidence to kill Clear Sky Old Forefather with just Vermilion Bird Camp. Facing Pu Yao's mockery and scorn, he could only grimace inside. The reason the battle against Clear Sky Old Forefather had been so difficult was because he had been frightened by the connotations of a Jindan Shouja. Now he knew that being on the defense would cause him to become even more reactive when facing a Jindan Shouja. Pu Yao clearly knew this. At this point, his wailing was just to satisfy his mouth. Hearing Pu Yao natter at his ears, Sui Mo really could not bear it any longer. He stopped his cultivation. All right. I'll make it up to you. He then muttered, an honored Sky Yao is actually, humph. Pu Yao pretended not to hear. After a while, he could resist tempting Sui Mo, actually, Jindan are very easy to kill. You didn't have the abilities before, but it is different now. Look, you have so many people under your command, and you also made a breakthrough. Sui Mo's mind jumped. Let's talk more about this. It's strange now that you speak of it. Your talent in the consciousness and Ling power doesn't seem outstanding, but you are abnormally fast in cultivating the Mo skills. It really is weird. Pu Yao was slightly discontent, but still said, you still remember your Mo physique? Of course, Jade Metal Head. Ranked 5th in the captain stage, Sui Mo answered. Exactly. At the beginning, I assumed you would go to Star and Moon Wheel. But with such coincidences, you transformed into another kind of Mo physique. Pu Yao seemed slightly helpless but also grave. There are 172 types of Colonel Mo physiques. Ranked 1st is Mystical Earth, 2nd is Great Day, 3rd is Demonic Fiend Sea. Mystical Earth is not Yin or Yang, and is the only Mo physique in Colonel level Mo physiques that doesn't belong to either. The biggest reason that it is ranked 1st is that it can develop into any Brigadier physique, including the top 3 Brigadier physiques. Great Day is Yang and unyielding, filled with brutal power. It is the best for developing any kind of Yang and unyielding Mo physique in the future. Demonic Fiend Sea is Yin and deceptive, and the best for transformations. I have the Great Day Mo physique. Sui Mo seemed to understand. Right. Pu Yao explained, during the fight with Clear Sky Old Forefather, you coincidentally activated the Big Formation. The Big Formation processed your body, the essence of Golden Crow, Hard Lightning, and Earth Fire. All of those are Yang and unyielding substances. Under these coincidental conditions, it allowed you to develop the Great Day Mo physique. When he spoke to there, Pu Yao rolled his eyes. It's just you. If this was another Mo that cultivated to Great Day Mo physique, he would already have gone to find a Jindan to feed on. Afraid of a Jindan? Humph. Feed? What is strange about that? The inner core of Yaomo are treasures to Shouja, the Jindan of a Shouja is also great food for Yaomo. Pu Yao's vividly red tongue unconsciously licked his lips. You could try. That taste is delicious. Zhuo shook, and then swore, Pu Yao, you pervert. Pu Yao was not affected. It's you who is too ignorant. It's very normal for Xiuzhe to use Yaomua to forge and in dan making. But you say we're perverts for eating golden cores? Zhuo was speechless. He decided to not linger on this question. What benefits are there to this great Damo physique? Pu Yao became excited. There are many benefits. Otherwise, how can it match to a Jindan Xiuzhe? The first is in cultivating Mo skills. You practiced Sky Wave Fist Scripture before, so you must know the crux to fully using the power of this fist scripture is how strong your body is. Mo skills are even more extreme on this point. In the future, you will discover that any Mo skill in the end it is to cultivate the body. Great Mo physique is innately strong and powerful. It is easier to cultivate those domineering Mo skills. Mo skills again, you don't have Mo skills, what are you excited for? Zhuo responded neutrally. Pu Yao almost choked. He decided to ignore Zhuo and continued, Mo physiques from Colonel and up have many wondrous abilities. Yaomua are not skilled in forging, and really cannot stack up to Xiuzhe on talismans. What do we do to compete then? One method is a soul-tethered talisman, but they are different from the soul-tethered talisman of Xiuzhe. The Yaomua's soul-tethered talisman is a part of their body, like a claw, tooth, or the skin they shed, formed after being forged constantly. The other method is the transformation of the Mo physique. Of the kernel Mo physiques, each type of Mo physique has its own transformations, but there are never more than 6 transformations. The reason that mystical earth, great day, and demonic fiend sea can rank in the top 3 is because all of them possess 6 transformations. Zhuo's eyes lit up upon hearing this. What are transformations? Similar to the Abhina of Diana Xiu. Didn't you get Ling eyes activated? The transformations of a Mo physique are techniques that can use the abilities of the Mo physique to the greatest degree. You understand the 6 transformations? Zhuo looked at Pu Yao with suspicion. Pu Yao said calmly, no. I just knew. What Sky Yao, you don't understand anything, Zhuo muttered to himself. A vein throbbed in Pu Yao's forehead but he suppressed himself. I might not understand, but someone does. Who? Zhuo was very curious now. That guy, Pu Yao said as he pointed at the gravestone. The gravestone? Zhuo stilled. Right. Smugness imperceptibly flashed across Pu Yao's eyes. You only need to agree to a little request from him, and he will teach you the 6 transformations of the great Mo physique, and also pass Mo skills on to you. Little request. Zhuo instinctively detected danger. He suddenly remembered the ancient voice that sounded when Pu Yao had entered his body. That damned, to abide by my ceremony, to execute my desires, to give my oath, will thou, that had tormented him. The more he thought, the more his anger burned. In the past when Ge had been tender, you felt Ge was easy to bully, and shit and peed on Ge's head, Ge couldn't defeat you, so Ge tolerated it. Now you want to trick Ge. No one could tolerate this. He sprinted in front of the gravestone, and his foot heavily kicked the gravestone. Idiot! You ran into Ge's sea of consciousness. Didn't give one piece of Jingshi in rent. Now you scheme against Ge. Do you want to live? Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. As Zhuo swore loudly, his foot kicked the gravestone rapidly so much the gravestone wobbled. Seeing Zhuo turn berserk, his eyes bloodshot, Pu Yao was dumbstruck where he stood. He dared to kick him. Heavens! After a long time, Pu Yao finally recovered. When he saw the gravestone that had almost been kicked over, his face instantly turned pale. Just as he opened and said one word, he saw Zhuo stop and turned around. On the dark and vicious face was a pair of bloody and murderous eyes. Pu Yao swallowed. He felt he was being targeted by a wild beast. If he took a wrong step, Zhuo Mo would instantly leap over. His throat felt tight. When his words reached his mouth, they became, "Let's talk peacefully, let's talk peacefully." Zhuo Mo turned around his pot-black face, and lifted his foot again. Bang bang bang. After kicking viciously for dozens of times, he finally stopped. Before he left, he did not forget to leave words behind. "Idiot, let GE tell you. You dare to scheme against GE, GE will kill you." As he finished, he was finally content and left. Pu Yao looked dumbstruck at the gravestone. The black surface of the gravestone was covered in footprints. After a long moment, Pu Yao suddenly exploded in laughter so hard he fell down. "Ha ha ha ha. This is the person you picked. He has such a personality. Really has a personality. Even more of a personality than you in the past. Ha. How do you feel? It must be great. Ha, I hadn't thought there would be a day when you get kicked by other people. This is so interesting. Ha 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 ha. I like this guy." In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao's roaring laughter echoed. When Zhuo Mo left the sea of consciousness, his anger had not been completely vented. What great day Mo physique, GE doesn't care. Don't think that if you had stuff like Mo skills that you can get good things out of GE. Gu doesn't lack spells. Zhuo Mo took out a large bunch of jade scrolls from the ring, and arranged them in a row. These jade scrolls had been collected over time while he was in Little Mountain Jia, and were all spells that were unique. The great majority were good 4th grade spells. Among them, there were also 2 5th grade spells. For him, at present, this was enough to use. As to the golden core, it can go to hell. Zhuo Mo suddenly had a deep understanding of a rule. Self-reliance was the true path. Back at Wukong Mountain, he was able to break through to the 4th level of the Little Art of Cloud and Rain, by relying on the lowest grade jade scroll. Right now, he had this many jade scrolls and their grades were not low. There was no reason that he would deteriorate over time. Deeply stimulated by Pu Yao and the gravestone, Zhuo Mo completely sank into a frenzy. Wasn't it just spells? Wasn't it just skills? You think if you hold on to the spells, you hold GE's throat. If the tiger doesn't roar, you mistake it for a sick cat. Gu will let you see why you Sky Yao and old antiques have declined to the point that you couldn't pay the rent, and had to take out the yin beads but couldn't sell them. While GE could hold a place in the outer sect of Wukong's sword sect with just the Little Art of Cloud and Rain, everyone calling out Little Moge, and the Jingshi was rolling in. Discovers the difference between Pu Yao and the gravestone. Bit of a lighter chapter and more Pu Yao's Mo interactions, so hopefully people are satisfied. Also, look, no Lil Cliffy. I researched and it turns out people pronounce differently in English depending on geography and other influences. So the A in ague seems like to me because that's how I usually say my A. Some of you might pronounce like AI or so please keep that in mind. Should I stick the ramblings of the past chapters back into the edited chapters? I thought they were distracting between chapters, so I left them out. Do they alleviate the off-putting horror that Pu Yao might seem to be? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.